is Matt Hardy, the Angelic Diablo, and you are listening to the interactive interview. Make sure to tune in each and every week. And remember, I will scar you.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Well, man, it's a pleasure to be here. How are you guys?
Good. We got to start off the show. It seems appropriate. What's a Matt fact for today?
Matt fact. Here's today's Matt fact. Matt facts. Matt is a huge fan of Arizona.
Oh,
There we go. Excellent. Excellent.
too bad I'm not, and I live here.
That's actually very true. I love Phoenix. Phoenix is a really beautiful area. A lot of good stuff going on there, and I know it's growing, and it's getting nicer and nicer every day.
It is growing very much. I moved here about 5 years ago, and now when I walk down the street, it's a totally different scene than when I was here 5 years ago. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's got warm weather, and that's another Matt fact. Matt is a huge fan of warm weather. I cannot stand cold weather. Just being out there, that dry heat, I dig that. So I could definitely live out there.
Something that always interests me is why wrestlers decide to get into wrestling. What attracted Matt Hardy to get into the ring?
Just the thing that initially attracted me is just watching as a kid and being a big fan, and I just said, wow, look at these guys. They're almost portrayed like as real-life living superheroes because, everyone has this gimmick and they have this great character. And you see these guys do these superhuman things, and they're actually out there and they're fighting these guys and jumping off the top rope. And, there's so many great things rolled into one. There's athleticism, there's drama, there's entertainment, there's humor, there's, a little bit of everything. And just seeing that was very attractive to me. And I just said, wow, that's cool. That's what I would like to do. And my brother...
A little bit about why you got into wrestling, if you want to start there again.
Yeah, I'll just start with that. Well, the initial reason my brother and I wanted to get into wrestling is just because we were big fans growing up. Watching it, these guys were larger than life, almost superheroes. In the ring, they would go out and they would do all these incredible moves to each other, and they would jump off the top rope, and they would just be able to absorb all this pain and all this punishment. You're like, whoa, these guys are cool. And then everyone had gimmicks or real life characters. And then just seeing these guys and everything they did, there were so many great elements rolled into one package. There was athleticism and drama and humor and just a little bit of everything. It was just a very appealing package. I was like, wow, that seems like it would just be a blast to do. And then on top of that, you would be famous and you'd be in the ring and you get to do all this cool stuff. So we said, well, let's try and pursue that and do that one day. And eventually we did.
Well, in the early days, I'm a big tape trader, and in the early days of your career, you guys ran Omega. And I remember thinking that stuff was totally different than anything else I was getting in my tape trades. What was so different, in your opinion, about Omega than any other indie out there at the time?
I think with us, it was just a lot of younger guys who had a different mentality about the business, who kind of thought outside the lines as far as the way the business had worked prior. Like we just wanted to incorporate more athleticism. We wanted to be more exciting than other matches you saw, and we still tried to kind of tell good stories, and we tried to make our matches still build in the process, but we also incorporated a lot more. We had a lot more high spots, and it was a lot more athleticism oriented, and we really worked hard, man. We'd go out and we'd bust our ass in front of, 150 people every night. And I think that's what it was. It was just a bunch of young guys who were kind of thinking outside the lines and who were willing to step it up a little bit. And as you can see, that's eventually what the business became.
Yes.
In the mid-'90s, after reading your book, a lot of people learned that you were involved in a lot of squash matches at around 94, 95, that period of time. How did the locker room compare between that period of time and when the Hardy Boys, when they were absolutely huge in late 90s, 2000s?
It wasn't a huge difference, I wouldn't say, just because even then when we first started and we were doing TV, I mean, all the guys were very cool with us. Really, I think more than the locker room changing over the years, it's the office that has changed over the years. Because before, back in the day, there was just Vince, and then there were a couple of agents, and there was, at one point when they first started having writers, there was, Vince Russo, and then Ed was his assistant, but now there's, Vince, and there's Stephanie and Hunter, and now there's, there's 10 or 12 writers, and there's 10 or 12 agents, and there's just so many people that are throwing all these ideas in. I think a lot of stuff kind of gets lost in the shuffle there because there's almost too many ideas and too many opinions and too many perspectives. As far as the locker room goes, I think the locker room, the guys, the boys, the wrestlers, they really haven't changed that much because everybody that is there really has to bust their ass and they have to work hard, and everybody respects one another, usually just because you're doing the same thing and you're entrusting each other with your life and limb, but as far as really changes in the system, obviously it was definitely the office more than the locker room.
Did you see those opportunities as, those squash matches as tryouts to get a bigger position in the WWE?
Always. I mean, Jeff and I, our mentality was just like, if we go out here and if we can't do anything offensively, what if we do some fabulous bump, something that looks amazingly from a defensive point of view, and just let the people in management or the people in charge go, wow, that kid took an awesome bump over the top rope to the floor. That took some talent to do that. Or at least, at a minimum, make sure they kind of remember your name and your face.
Yes. You were involved in the... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, you were involved in the Funkin' Conservatory. Did you learn a lot from Dory?
Yeah, it's kind of that's an interesting question, just because there were a lot of things, by the time you're signed to the WWE, especially back in the day, it's not quite the scenario now because there's not as many places to be out there and learn, and not as many territories, quote unquote. But really, by the time you get to that level, you should know almost everything. But there were a lot of little things that Dory knew just from all his years of experience. Just like a little thing here, just like maybe a way to react or a way to, a way to sell or a way to register something. Just real little things that are the true mark of a pro that he helped us out with a whole lot.
We're very, very high on one of the guys that Dory trained, Adam Windsor. Do you know anything about Adam, and what do you think of him?
I really don't know much about him. I've met him several times because I know he's Dory's top protege, and he's a very nice guy, and I know he's worked really hard, obviously, because he's worked with Dory all this year. So I don't know much about him other than that every time I've met him, he's just been a very nice guy.
In 1999, you and Jeff were managed by Michael Hayes, who, of course, was a member of the Fabulous Freebirds. Were you a Freebirds fan?
Yeah, I actually was. I was a big Freebirds fan. I actually was a huge fan of the reincarnation of the Freebirds that were Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin when they were in late NWA, early WCW, when Jimmy Garvin was running around every week going, yeah, 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 yeah. That was the word that came out of his mouth more than anything else. I dug both those guys, and I thought Michael was always a really good character and very charismatic and really did good interviews.
And this brings up an interesting question. Now, of course, Jeff is doing his music. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I won't even try. And Michael Hayes, of course, and the Freebirds were a rock and roll, the first rock and roll gimmick in wrestling. What is in Matt Hardy's CD library at the moment, or CD player at the moment?
It's a good question. Actually, it's a good time for you to spring this on me because I just answered that recently. Right now, the things I have in my CD player I always usually keep some Pearl Jam in there. I've got a little burned a CD that I've burned with all my favorite Pearl Jam stuff. I've got Pearl Jam, 50 Cent, Eminem, Blink-182, Tool, Perfect Circle.
Interesting. Interesting
little combo. A lot of I listen, some R&B and some rap and alternative. That's probably the main two genres of music I listen to.
We recently had Stevie Ray on the show, and a big portion of the conversation was about his take on what the tag team divisions are missing. Obviously, most people would consider you an expert on tag team wrestling. What do you think is currently missing from WWE's tag team division?
Well, the biggest thing that's missing more than anything else is just the actual office getting behind some tag teams. It's just, as far as the quality of tag teams there, it's not like just tag teams pop up and then they just become great on their own. They have to have an office behind them, especially in the professional wrestling business, whereas, the business and the product is all driven on what management decides to do with certain teams. Sure, when we came along, it was us, and it was Edge and Christian, and we were putting on good matches, and we kind of forced them to do something, and then the Dudleys were kind of injected into that formula. Just now, you have La Resistance, there's Hurricane and Rosie, there's a couple other teams, but really, you have to make those tag team titles important, and you have to put them in some important matches, and you have to give them time, you have to let them make that mean something. You just can't have your tag teams out there getting beat up by the world champion and doing handicap matches every week. That's going to kill your tag team division.
Yeah, and the thing that confuses me is in the late 80s and early 90s, the tag team division was so strong, and of course in the late 90s and the early 2000s with, you and your brother, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Outlaws at one point, and you had so many tag teams, and tag teams can obviously draw money. It's been proven in the past. Why do you think the office's philosophy about that has changed?
I don't know. It's just they go in cycles. They get lazy. That's the only thing I can really attribute it to. I mean, it's like if they would stumble upon something, they might do it again, but it's just you have to work for those things. I mean, if you want to have a women's division make money, you really have to work hard on having a good women's division. If you want to make a tag team division make money, you have to work hard on making a good tag team division. If you want to make a cruiserweight division make money, which it can, you have to work good on making a good cruiserweight division. But even looking at WWE right now, you can kind of look through, and the only thing you're really concerned about is their heavyweight titles.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
James.
Okay, one of the things that shined through in a lot of your TLC matches, and we just talked about that quickly, was your grasp on psychology in the middle of insanity. When you're looking at the indies today, you see a lot of companies out there that have a lot of high spot guys, and they don't seem to understand the idea of psychology. It's kind of like, well, I could do a 450 splash, but I can't, make it make sense in the psychology of the match. Do you think that that's a big problem that the young guys in the business are having, that finding that appropriate psychology?
I think so. I think, especially in this day and age, it's a very fine line. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because the fans are so demanding, and they are so smart, and you just can't go out there. You just can't go out there and give them a boring old standard wrestling match. That doesn't work these days. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, you can go by the same standard formula, and you can put some spice in it, and you can put some hot spots in there. You just have to position them in the right places. And once you do something that is big and impactful, you have to make sure it means something. A lot of people, lose the concept of making these things mean something, because they'll have some big spot and then boom, they'll be back up doing something else again. But the thing is, a wrestling match is just like watching a play or like watching an opera or watching any kind of movie. I mean, it's all as real as, as it's written or it's performed, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And once you get out there and you're in a wrestling match, and if you do something that kind of breaks that line of where, well, that couldn't be real because he couldn't be up from that already, and that's when you start losing people. And that's where the problem is now, I think, because it's a fine line of doing that, and a lot of people just become hot spot happy, and that's all they think of. It's like, okay, well, we got to top the last thing, and top this, and top that, and do this, and that's okay. We don't need to slow down at all. We need to do this again. So I think it's, it's very much finding a fine line, and I think a lot of people just don't get an opportunity to work with people that have been experienced or have really been good workers in the past.
Mm. What goes through your mind? What goes through your mind when you're about to get into a TLC match and you know that you're going to take? I mean, you're known as a daredevil. What do you exactly goes through your mind before you do some of these high spots? I mean, do you think about the potential of danger?
A lot of prayer. No, actually, I mean, it's just. I think for me too. Like I always try to take as many calculated risks as possible. I would try to know what I was doing, but I would never do something that I just thought that there's no way I can do this without coming out of it safe. And some of it may not look like that, and in actuality some of it probably wasn't like that, but in my mind I tried to do, whenever I did do daring stuff, I tried to do the stuff that I felt most comfortable with, that I could, handle in a stuntman-like capacity. So, it's one of those things, man, you got to go out there and you really can't overthink it as far as being involved in a match and performing a lot of stunts like that. You have to kind of go out there and just have your head screwed on straight and just know, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to think twice about it, because a lot of times when you think twice is when you get hurt.
We had talked a little bit earlier about taking bumps, that we're helping people such as yourself get over in the early days. Kind of to branch off of that, you yourself always sold moves, very, very well in the ring, and it made your character that much more believable. Today it seems like no selling is kind of the standard issue. What are your thoughts on that?
I just don't think you can have that, man. Just like I said, it's just like watching a movie. If you've got some hero in a movie that gets shot 5 times, and he's not hurt, or he's not in a fight for his life trying to heal up and come back out of the bad guys. If he just gets shot 5 times and then just kicks the bad guy ass afterwards, I mean, there's really no emotion involved in there. Mm. And the whole thing with selling in the wrestling business is about invoking emotion. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, because the reason people tune in and watch the show is to be entertained, and you have to have emotion for the guy that you like and the guy that you hate.
Hmm. I did a little bit of ghostwriting myself. I was assisting for a short time on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's autobiography, which is yet to be released or even completed, to be honest with you. But, of course, you guys, the Hardy Boys, released a book. I guess my question for you is, how involved were you in the actual process of doing that? As by reading the Rock's book, it was pretty clear that he was not very involved at some points.
I was very, very involved. Actually, as far as the book goes, as far as even input in the book, I did about 90% to Jeff's 10% probably.
Wow.
Even going back reading through the book, like a lot of the quotes that are, stated as being from Jeff were actually from me, because we worked with the Ghost Rider as well, who was actually a pretty diehard wrestling fan, and he's also a rock and roll writer. He did some stuff with Rolling Stones, So it was he was a good guy to work with, and I actually spent hours on end. He actually went on the road with me, traveled with me, and actually I wrote stuff and submitted it to him, and then he would critique it or change it. And then, whenever he would get through with a particular draft, he'd send it to me, and there'd be things I'd go back and change or ask and say, well, we can't say this, or could we say this differently? And we really wouldn't say that. So I was actually very hands-on, where Jeff wasn't, but Jeff still gets half the credit or whatever. But that's kind of that's the story of my life.
I remember there was a time when you and Jeff were compared to Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, with you being parallel to Marty Jannetty. You ended up outlasting Jeff in the WWE. What would you say was the major difference between you getting over and Jeff was over as well, but you being able to have a little bit more longevity?
I just have a lot better head for the business than Jeff does, and he would say that too. And just also Jeff's passion was kind of running out at that point where it wasn't, it wasn't even, his main interest at that time wasn't wrestling. His dream was to be a wrestler and wrestle with the WWE and to be the tag team champions and be successful in it. And he'd done that, and he'd done that, and he was kind of burnt out from being on the road and being gone all the time. Jeff at heart is very much a homebody, and that really wasn't his dream anymore. He kind of had different things that he wanted to do in his life, and it just wasn't as fun for him as it was at one point. Where for me it's still fun and I still love it, and it's just ridiculous. The whole circumstances and the reasons I'm not there now is absolutely absurd. And, I should still be there in reality, but the whole reason why is just I had a better grasp on what to do and when to do it at the right times than Jeff did, and that's probably why I ended up doing a little better for him, a little better than him whenever we split. And Jeff had his strengths, and I always try to highlight those strengths whenever we'd have tag matches. He had some things that he could do physically that I couldn't do, and he was a lot more graceful. And, even from a personality standpoint, his personality is very, very strong, and it's hard to compete with his, regardless of who you are.
Actually, a few years ago, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said, actually, I was going to say a few years ago, we actually saw you and Jeff on an episode of Fear Factor, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
What was it like to actually do that show? Because you guys had to go through some pretty sick things. If I'm not mistaken, there was a few milkshakes that you guys had to drink.
I did. Jeff was the first person eliminated. He actually was the first person kicked off the show. But no, I did that. I actually drank. We had the blender of fear, whatever the stunt was. But it was a base of pig brains, 2 cow spleens, and a scoop of animal fat. And it was one of those big margarita, one of those big drink glasses like you get in a TGI Fridays or a Ruby Tuesdays. It was huge. And it was pretty disgusting, but fortunately I was able to take it down because my dad always cooked for me growing up, so I was used to eating nasty stuff. It was fun, man. That Fear Factor show, actually, I had a blast on there. I would definitely do it again. It was a good time.
You mentioned that your brother wanted to be a tag team champion. You seem to have wanted to be a singles wrestler. Is that accurate?
Well, no, my first goal more than anything else, and my ultimate goal whenever we wanted to sign was to be tag team champions, in which we did that, 6 times over. But, my goal now, I would still say, is to be a singles heavyweight champion of a major promotion. And that would always have been my goal in the WWE. I think if you're very serious and dedicated about being in the business and you're in the WWE, I think that should be your goal. If that's not your goal, then I really don't know why you're there.
Right.
And as far as things go now, there's TNA, there's Ring of Honor out there, and that would definitely be my goal in all those places, to be the champion.
Matt, you just mentioned that you and your brother were 6-time World Tag Team Champions. Did you think that I always felt that the WWE could have given both you, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, longer reigns to really prolong the amount that the tag team could really go, because Edge and Christian, I believe, captured it 7 times in a year span, and people just didn't get excited after they captured the titles. Do you think the shorter reigns hurt the teams in the long run?
I think the shorter reigns hurt the titles more than the teams, because I think it just takes away from the the prestige of the titles. There was a point there whenever we bought WCW, the titles switched every week. You couldn't even keep up with who the champion was. I remember back in the day when Jeff and I were growing up, we could list every Intercontinental champion back to back when they had decent reigns. But there came a point where I had no idea. I was working there. I didn't even have an idea who the champion was, because every week there was a title switching. It was absurd. And I think really more than hurting the talent, I think it just, because talent, they win matches, they lose matches, whatever. I think it just takes away from the prestige of the title more than anything else.
You were one of.
You guys are giving me a lot of today. You hear my comments?
It's we just have don't want to interrupt you, so we just to tell you that we are interested. But you were one of the first people that Brock Lesnar feuded with upon his entrance into the WWE. How was Brock to work with?
Brock was at the very beginning, he was very humble, very gracious, and I remember he was just very, very thankful of everything that I would do for him, and we'd make him like $1 million, both Jeff and I, and he was just very, 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 very thankful of that.
So you said at the beginning, did that change later on?
Yeah, I think just as time went on, and with a lot of guys, I mean, Brock just kind of, he got used to being a star and got used to being the center of attention, and that kind of ate him up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely overtook the Brock Lesnar that started there in the beginning.
Got a question coming in from RSBH123 from our chat room. He wants to know who originally came up with the idea and name Mattitude.
I did.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man.
The whole concept when I was a singles wrestler, every bit of that was my idea. Nothing WWE or office driven. It was all mine. Unfortunately, I was just able to. They gave me the green light on doing it.
I remember when you, after your Cruiserweight title run, you were unbelievably over on the SmackDown brand. It seemed only natural to go for the U.S. title next, and then eventually push you as a world title contender. Why the move to Raw?
Well, very interesting question. At that point, that's when Amy, Lita, had been out with neck surgery, and we'd been together and been pretty serious for a while. And just for the sake of our relationship, and so that it wouldn't be damaged, and we would see each other, and we were both trying to make that the most important thing at that point in our careers, because we probably had a long future together. I was going to switch over to SmackDown, and she'd asked Vince as well, and I'd asked Vince as well if we could be on the same schedule to show it, so it wouldn't damage our relationship.
Mm-hmm. We all know the situation with you, Lita, and Edge. We kind of made a little bit of an effort to take the interview in a separate direction, but unfortunately, we do have to ask, how do you feel about what's going on TV right now between the two of them on the screen, and how does it make you feel that they're exploiting a real-life situation?
Well, it's nothing that I wouldn't have expected. It's because it was what they do, And the big thing with me now is just because I don't want to see it, so I don't watch right now. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing, because not that I couldn't watch it, it's just that I don't watch it. And it's to me, I think it's very it's very tasteful, especially from my personal perspective, and just considering everything I did for the company over 7 years I was there. I had so many great experiences there, but just the way it ended was just absolutely just horrible. And everything was just handled so poorly.
At this point in time, if you and Edge were asked to work together in some capacity, do you feel that you both could put your personal differences aside for the good of your professional careers?
Well, as I've said this before, it's pretty much my standard answer on this, but I would just never say never. I don't know. I would guess if that was going to benefit my, career as far as working and becoming a bigger star, then yeah, maybe. But with that being said, if I stepped in the ring with Adam Copeland, just considering all our personal issues, I really don't know what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to answer. I'm very torn when I'm asked that question.
I think people probably ask you that so much because we'd all love to see, Matt back in the WWE. And from what we were understood, the upcoming WrestleMania, you were set to come back just before the situation had broke. And I know I personally, as well as many of the people listening to our show, were really excited to have you come back on TV. So, it's just a question that everyone asks if you could work, because, it would be hard to picture you back there and not in the storyline capacity address the situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Does it warm your heart or make you feel good to hear the fans chanting, "We want Matt"?
I mean, absolutely, man. There's no way. I don't think there's any way that it couldn't. It's just really the ultimate form of flattery in a lot of ways, just that people remember, especially from being off TV 6 or 7 months, having a major knee surgery, and just considering that people were so outraged with the situation. I think really a lot of people they chant, once they hear about the situation, I think they don't chant as much just because they think Matt Hardy's the greatest wrestler of all time. I just think they really chant because they feel very sympathetic. And a lot of people have been involved in the same situation, and they really sympathize with the whole situation I'm in, especially like losing, the the girl you're planning on marrying, and also losing your dream job. People are very sympathetic towards it. So, yeah, believe me, that's music in my ears whenever I hear that.
Absolutely.
Well, this will be the last question about this situation, since I'm sure you've been asked it about a zillion times. But I was just curious, because there's been rumors all over the internet that Vince has contacted you about coming back to somehow be a part of this storyline. Is that true, or is that completely false?
I haven't spoken to Vince. I've talked with people in the WWE, not necessarily on that, but I have spoken with people in the WWE, but I haven't spoken to Vince directly.
I just do want to ask you this one more, and we've talked about your release quite a bit, and I know that you came back, and it was the night that seemed to be just a night of follies with the slashing of the tires, which I know you had nothing to do with, and Shannon Moore's car accident. And I mean, at that point, did you have any idea that they were just going to cut you loose?
Well, even when I've been asked that, it's kind of, in some ways, just considering the way the situation was handled, how I was kind of the guy on the outside, because both Amy and Adam were on TV at that point. And Adam was in the midst of a big push, and then I was the guy that was just kind of, I was off TV, and the office was they were kind of shunning me in the situation. It's like they didn't necessarily condone what they did, but they never said it was wrong, or they never said stop this. So I knew that didn't look good from that perspective. And it surprised me because I didn't think they would really stoop to that level and, release me considering the circumstances. But with that being said, WWE and things don't surprise me. Whenever it happened, I realized that was definitely a possibility. It's that whole thing about the tire slashing thing.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting thing, too, and I've never said this anywhere else on any other radio interview. It's actually on my DVD once it comes out, and I go into detail and elaborate on that. One of the things I found out is that whenever Edge's tires were slashed, I found out that the guy who either had something to do with it or either called the office and reportedly told them that I did it and that I was trying to, take a hit on Edge or damage his vehicle or whatever it was. It's actually a guy who used to be a friend of mine back in the day, and ever since Amy and I broke up, his old girlfriend, her and I started seeing each other some, and that was and he wrestled for one point at the WWE as well, and he actually called that into the WWE, and I heard that was one of the determining things that caused my release. And that was something that was an absolute setup and I had nothing to do with. And I actually go into detail about that on a DVD that Jeff and I have coming out in a few weeks, the Ultimate Insiders DVD, which was another big thing.
And where can people pick that up?
It'll be available from Big Vision Entertainment, and if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be selling that on the Pro Wrestling Torch for the first few weeks when they sell it across the internet, and then it'll be on DirecTV, and then it will be available in stores everywhere within 3 or 4 months wherever you can buy WWE DVD.
Excellent. I remember hearing a few weeks ago, I didn't actually, or a month maybe ago, I'm not sure exactly what was said, but was there a bit of a kind of a verbal sparring between you and Triple H?
I don't know if there was a verbal sparring as far as that goes. Do you mean like in person or?
Like Triple H may have said something and then you responded on an interview somewhere. I didn't actually hear what Triple H said.
I think what apparently, and I don't even know if Hunter said this or not. Someone asked me, said that Hunter made a comment saying that it was no big deal with me being released, that I never drew any money. And I just said, well, I don't know if he said that or not, and I'm not going to speculate if he did. I said, but that is something he said. I think to me that'd be a pretty petty statement, and there's no way you can argue that Matt Hardy is one half of the Hardy Boys, a huge money drawer when Jeff and I were together. Not only for that demographic that we attracted, but also for merchandise. Jeff and I sold more merchandise than any other tag team in the history of the business.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I remember I was sitting in a comic book store with my friend. He was a big comic fan at the time. And, they had all the WWE action figures at the time. And, the kids were coming in. They're like, well, yeah, there's The Rock and there's Triple H, but where's the Hardy Boys? So, I remember thinking that, like, wow, for a tag team, that's pretty big.
I saw the figures from the merchandising people. Like, over our span of time that we were together as a tag team, we sold more merchandise than any other tag team that's ever been in the business.
Wow.
Of course, we were there at a great time, too, when business was red hot during the boom, but facts are fact. And there were a lot of people, a lot of young girls, a lot of young kids that were paying, were buying tickets and paying to see Matt and Jeff Hardy at that point. And too, like, Matt Hardy's a singles wrestler. As when I was, version 1 and Sensei of Attitude, there were a lot of people that were paying to see me then too.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we switch gears a little bit? We talked a little bit before about the cruiserweight division. What do you think the WWE needs to do currently to help improve the cruiserweight division? Since you had left as a champion, it doesn't seem to have the same drawing power, the same big feel about it.
it's just once again, man. I mean, you kind of have to keep the cruiserweight division off as kind of an island to itself. You have to cut those guys loose, and the whole thing that makes the cruiserweight division special is you have smaller guys that can do things that the big muscle guys can't do, and you have to let those guys do that. And whenever these guys do that and they become special, you can't put them in the ring with, whoever, your heavyweight champion, and have the heavyweight champion squash them and beat them in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? I mean, the thing is with the cruiserweight division, you have to let these guys go. You have to let them have exciting matches and have a little bit of a faster style and a faster pace than your standard heavyweight matches. But then you also have to protect them. You can't just take them and use them as jobbers to your big stars because they're small guys that are in the cruiserweight division.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch gears again. Now that you're free, now that you're no longer in the WWE, I don't know, there's a couple indies out there that might be interested in you. One I don't consider an indie, one I consider an indie, TNA and Ring of Honor. Where would Mattitude like to show up?
Well, I'm doing stuff. I'll be doing stuff for both those guys, as of right now. I'm already booked on doing some Ring of Honor stuff, and then once my 90-day compete clause is up, and I'm sure I'll be doing some TNA stuff with Jeff down there. And there's actually, as of right now, I'm booked every weekend all the way through October, so
wow.
It's almost too busy. And besides doing that, besides wrestling, I actually have a project that I'm working on right now, which is actually going to be the Matt Hardy show. And the last 5 or 6 days, I actually had a couple cameras with me and a producer, and they followed me around. And actually Jeff and Lori, which is actually the girl that I'm now dating, around in just my everyday life, and also doing a lot of special extracurricular things. And it's going to be kind of like a reality show that's kind of like a variety show as well, featuring Matt Hardy and his family, friends, and cast of characters.
Do you have a TV deal on that?
I'm working on that right now. What's that?
Do you have a TV deal?
What's going on right now is we're doing the first of a kind. There's never really been anything like this, where it's going to be a website where it's going to be a streaming video show, like every week or every other week, 20 or 30 minutes, and then every day there's also going to be different clips added on there. It'll be a small fee or whatever. You join it for the site. There'll be constant new footage, and I saw some of the templates for the website, and it is out of the world. The guys out in New York that are doing it's really amazing. So it's very lucky. It's just some guys that came to me considering the whole situation. They were interested in doing this, and they kind of had like this groundbreaking project. They were looking for somebody that had some name value and like a core group of fans that they want to do this with, and I was all about it. Just and some of the things that Jeff and I'll do together, and just other people. It's just I don't want to go into too many details and give away too much stuff, but it's going to be very, very entertaining. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. And with that being said, it's also going to be humorous, and there's going to be stuff that is a little controversial, and there's also going to be stuff that's very inspiring. It's going to have something for everyone.
Now, speaking of TV deals, it sounds like the TNA TV deal with WGN is currently falling through. What's your gut feeling tell you about this? Do you think TNA is going to end up getting a TV deal?
Honest to God, man, I hear different things, so I'm not really sure. I hear I hear yes, and then I hear no, and I hear yes probably 2 or 3 times a day. So I'm not sure. My gut feeling says that I would think, considering the way that they've survived so far, at some point they would strike a TV deal. So I'm definitely hoping so, because regardless of where I go and work or do whatever, I mean, for TNA to get a TV deal and become legitimate competition for the WWE, I mean, that's very important for the business surviving as a whole, because the business needs that competition, man. It survives and thrives on that competition. Also, there's just so many talented guys out there right now that just they just don't have a place to work because there's not that many slots open in the WWE.
Right.
Well, competition is, what makes you better. If you have somebody to compete against, then you have to be better than they are, and that, that leads to elevated television.
Competition makes the world go round, man.
Absolutely. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time. Do you mind if we just close out with a few word associations? Word associations being, if you have a one-word answer, that's great, but if you have a story, no problem, you can share that too. Okay, the first name on the list is Christian.
Cool ass guy.
How about Trish Stratus?
Hard worker.
Y2J Chris Jericho.
Fozzy.
Have you actually heard any of their stuff?
Yeah, I have heard. I've heard some of their stuff. I like some of the stuff, especially his new CD. I think it's really good. And I know he's all about that now, and he's very interested in doing that. And if that's something he can eventually branch off into, more power to him, because it's something he truly loves, and it's kind of a project that he's spawned from himself.
Because God knows he's not getting the push he deserves.
There you have it.
Yeah, Billy Kidman.
Itch.
Yeah, someone you started...
He used to scratch himself.
Yeah, I remember that. That was with the flock. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I don't even know what that was. Was he supposed to be an addict, or what was that? Or just unwashed?
So yeah, it was like all of Raven's flock or whatever were all drug addicts and misfits and stuff. I guess he was supposed to be a heroin addict or something.
How about somebody that started out with you in Omega? How about Shane Helms?
I'm trying to think of something not so generic, but superhero, man. Also too underrated.
Shannon Moore.
Mohawk.
The Dudley Boys?
Tables.
I've got an interesting one here that was submitted by somebody who actually knows you. I don't know if you know him. His name is Chris Pantograph. He asked me to ask you about Sting.
Ask him about Sting. That's actually funny. I think my dad knows this cat. And I don't know what the Sting reference is. Sting is actually Jeff was a big fan of Sting growing up. Like, Jeff emulated Sting quite a bit growing up. But Sting was actually one of my favorites as well. So when you say Sting, I'll say early favorite.
Mm-hmm. How about the master of psychology himself, in my opinion, Bret the Hitman Hart?
Awesome.
And Jim Ross?
A friend. I still consider JR a friend to this day. He was the guy that hired me, and if JR would have been in the talent relation position when all this stuff went down instead of John Laurinaitis, like, I wouldn't be in this position right now. I'll tell you that.
I got 3 names left, and one of them is not that easy, so I'll make that one the first one. How about Lita?
Disappointment.
Vince McMahon.
The wrestling god, man.
And the last name on the list is your brother, Jeff Hardy.
Late is all I can say for that.
Excellent, man. We really can't appreciate
anything else.
We can't thank you enough for your time. Would you mind just giving us a plug for your website so you can, anybody that wants to keep up on the things coming out in Matt Hardy's career?
Yeah, most definitely so. I would like to give a plug. Everybody can keep up with Matt Hardy by going over to thematthardy.com. And if there's anyone out there that would like to email me, you can email me at the Angelic Diablo at earthlink.net. That comes directly to me. I read all those, and I try and respond to all the ones I can. And very soon, you guys will be able to check out, hopefully within 4 to 5 weeks. It should be starting within like 4 weeks or so. It'll be the Matt Hardy Show, which is going to be the ultimate variety reality show.
You mentioned Angelic Diablo. I just wanted to ask you, what does that mean?
Angelic Diablo is almost like, to me, it's a version. It's just like how they say within everyone there's a good side and a bad side. You know, everyone has those different parts of their personality. The Angelic Diablo is like the angel and the devil, within me. That's what that represents. And the whole concept for this gimmick originally was built as an idea I came up with, like kind of to change my character whenever I came back. Originally stemming off the Lita and Kane angle when, Amy was forced into marrying Kane.
Right.
And the Angelic Diablo, the whole concept behind it was going to be something similar to a Punisher or Crow vigilante type character. Someone who, in the course of their life, had a great life, and then all of a sudden everything was stripped away from them, everything was taken from them, and now their whole goal in life is to make sure that same event doesn't happen to anyone else that's innocent or anyone else that's fair, and make sure that the people that are guilty or corrupt are punished, and punished heavily for whatever they do.
Seems pretty fitting, man. We really can't thank you enough, and we hope you have a tremendous remainder of your career. We'll be checking out the upcoming reality show, and we'll be plugging it to the best of our ability on our show. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
You can do that, and I'll tell you. Are you guys still there?
Yes, we're still here.
Yep. Just going to say, just for the record, too, man, that will be themattHardyShow.com whenever it comes up. Like I said, it's going to be about 4 weeks or so, and I want to thank you guys for having me, man, and keep in touch, man.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. It's your boy Chuck D alongside James Walsh. We are back here on the Blaze for another edition of the interactive interview. We have a full show for you today. We're going to talk Raw results. We're going to talk SmackDown results. We got an excellent interview from the Angelic Diablo. I'm talking about Matt Hardy. We get some great exclusive content never heard anywhere else before. You got to stick around for that. We'd also like to remind you, log on to www.WrestlingEpicenter.com. We got the chat room up. I know we got a few people in there. We're already getting calls, man. This is some stuff going on. James, how you doing today, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. It's a great day for wrestling fans, as last night we saw the reemergence of Extreme Championship Wrestling on WWE Raw. We're going to talk about ECW in the last segment of the show, but of course we do have WWE Monday Night Raw tickets to give away this show as well.
I even forgot, man. We got Raw tickets. We got some White Snake tickets. We are doing big things here on the Interactive Interview this week, man. Let me tell you. But I got to announce that we have our first caller of the day. Eric, are you... Eric? There, now we have Eric on the line. Eric, what is up, my man?
Not a lot. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. We're just getting ready to discuss a little Raw. We're going to get right into it at the start of the show. We had Eric Bischoff talking a lot about the draft, and then we had Chris Jericho come out setting up the highlight reel. And guess who was picked the very first pick in this installment of the draft lottery? None other than my homie, John Cena.
Well, I thought this is friggin' huge because it's the champion of the other brand, obviously, coming to Raw.
Yes, the champ is her.
The champ is her.
Am I the only one who didn't find that even remotely amusing?
That's because you don't understand the culture of hip-hop. John Cena has got the culture down. You know how we do it, the St. Lunatic style, right here. Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was pretty big myself.
I got the Nelly reference.
Yeah, that's what it was, man. I got to tell you myself, I found this to be a pretty enjoyable segment, and I'll tell you why. Because the man...
I find it enjoyable that you said segment.
Yes, I found this segment enjoyable, especially when the man, my peep and yours, the captain of charisma, Christian, came out. I'll tell you what, I had shades of Stone Cold and Rock all over again.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I go that far, but it definitely was entertaining. I like how they did it.
Yes, I thought it was an excellent segment. I personally think that John Cena could be the biggest homophobe on the history of the planet. Everything he says is a gay joke. Everything. I don't find it humorous. I personally am actually somewhat getting tired of it, to be honest with you. I hope that he continues to be as over as he is, though, because even though I might not like the character, and that probably goes because I hate rap music, it probably is, it's not probably, it definitely is reacting well to the crowd. The crowd is reacting to him.
No, you got to give him props, dude, and I think he's the kind of guy that can actually thrive on a live show because he gets great live responses versus, the SmackDown edited responses. And, it was phenomenal. I'm not going to say I got goosebumps because I'm not that much of a wrestling mark, but I can see why some people did.
I could see that for sure. It was definitely a great response. It was great to see Cena on Raw. I agree with JBL when he said that John Cena will burn out. I believe he will, but that's clearly has not happened yet.
Now, what do you guys think of Christian? I think he really held his own. This man is doing great things. Do you think he stays on Raw, or do you think he's going to go to SmackDown, as you previously predicted?
Well, I don't know anymore. I thought they were going to... I didn't see this coming, this Cena switch thing. I don't know anymore. I think Cena is actually... I think Christian's actually better on the mic than Cena is. But, I don't know anymore, really.
That's what's making this draft lottery actually great. Checking the internet today, everyone's confused. No one knows what's going to happen. What about Batista? What about Triple H? What about Shawn Michaels? What about Cena? What are they going to do with two champions on one brand? What happens to SmackDown? Tons of stuff's being talked about. This is something we haven't seen in quite some time in wrestling.
The one thing that I would have liked to see a little more of is, essentially, I would have liked to see Bischoff more gloating about how they had the champion of the other brand on Raw.
I actually thought there was a little bit too much Bischoff on the show. I understand, though, that it was necessary. I think, though, when you think about the draft, you have to go back to what Vince said a couple months ago, and he said, we're going to shake things up a bit. Well, he certainly has shaken things up a bit.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to our first match, guys. The first match we saw was an Intercontinental title match. Of course, it was handicapped match style. Referee Jack Doan was calling the action. We had Hassan and Daivari taking on Shelton Benjamin, who's, of course, the current champ. And Shelton got the win over Daivari, leaving an enraged Hassan. This is going to set up their match for, what is the next pay-per-view coming up? I don't even know. Vengeance. This is going to set up their Vengeance match is what it looks like.
I would say so. And looks like it was a fairly good match. I enjoyed it for what it was. I actually think Hassan got screwed, and I think they're going to play off that pretty well next week with Stone Cold Steve Austin. However, I will not be a happy little man if I come in here next week and I'm telling you that Stone Cold stunned Mr. Hassan. I think that's unnecessary. It's putting over an old guy that beats women. I don't like him. I don't want him on my TV. I'm not excited about seeing him, but I will say this, once again, just like Cena, regardless what I like, the fans like him. So take that for what it is.
What do you think about that, Eric? Are you glad Stone Cold's coming back?
Well, like James, granted, I don't hate Stone Cold as much as James does. I will once again concede that Stone Cold is massively over. Cena is over. When Hogan came back, he was over. Austin is extremely over. Do I think it adds anything to the story? Not really. I think it'll get a huge pop. I think the rating will get a spike, but I don't think it's going to help Hassan too much. I think you got to push Hassan towards this Intercontinental title and eventually give him the belt.
So am I the only one here out of this little panel that we got going on that actually think this is beneficial to Hassan? Because let me tell you what, he's been stuck in some feuds with a lot of no-names, you know what I mean? It's good to have him surrounded by bigger stars. It makes him look larger than life.
I'm not sure what you mean by no names. Is Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels a no name?
Okay, you're talking one specific instance.
Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho.
I consider Shelton Benjamin not a huge draw, no.
Well, that's
and
a
at
good
this point in time, I also don't see Chris Jericho as a huge draw.
Well, that's unfortunate, but that's beyond the point. I actually agree with you. Shelton Benjamin is not a big draw. I think he's held the belt too long. And me and Eric were having a discussion earlier, and I want to discuss this with you. At this stage in Randy Orton's title reign, he was ready for the world title. Now, Shelton Benjamin has held the belt for just as long as Mr. Orton has, or did at that time, and he's nowhere near world title ready. He's actually below Intercontinental title ready, if you ask me. That's why I want the belt off him.
I don't think Shelton's below Intercontinental title. Do I think he's gained a lot from it? Not really. I think he's pretty good at where he is, but no, But then again, did Orton really set the bar too high?
Orton really did set the bar too high. He was probably the best Intercontinental champion you could have asked for, because he was a heel that was over. Shelton's a face that's not over, and that's the ultimate problem.
Our next match of the evening, or actually not the next match, the next segment we saw, we had Tajiri and William Regal with a little bit of interaction with Chris Benoit as well. It looks like they're going to turn William Regal heel from this.
Tajiri chanted ECW for about 47 minutes.
That was really awkward.
It was awkward. I thought the whole segment was kind of awkward. I mean, William Regal's an okay talker. Tajiri's obviously not a great talker. Chris Benoit also not a great talker. But I think it's a benefit in the fact that they're going to end up turning Regal heel over this, because he said he's not for ECW, and everyone wants to see ECW. That's going to get him automatic heel heat.
One bad thing that I think comes out of this, though, is there's another tag team down the drain. La Resistance is gone. Regal and Tajiri are gone. You know, they started building the tag divisions up a little bit just a couple months ago when they brought M&M and the Heartthrobs, or whatever they're called, in, and now you're once again seeing them being pretty much pushed to the wayside as they try to split teams up. Because I guarantee you're going to see a Tajiri against Regal feud.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the tag team division here on this show, but there's a lot of guys in OVW that I think we're going to see get brought up specifically for the tag team division. Just after the next month is over and we get done with this draft lottery, I think there'll be time. We'll see where things lie, and they'll bring some people up. And there's also could be some reuniting of some tag teams, perhaps via the draft lottery. The Dudley Boys, we don't know where they're ending up.
And it feels so good.
Yeah. Anyway, our next match we had Val Venus taking on Chris Masters, and this is the second installment of their mini feud, if you will. Chris Masters picking up the win. Is the Chris Masters character growing on you at all, Eric?
Yeah, I think it is really. I think that the Val Venus, I thought, was on fire in this match. I thought he really had a lot of vigor and no pun intended. But
yeah, I thought so too. He looked good last week. He's actually in shape, which I couldn't say for him about a year ago. He looks good. He actually seems like he could talk on the mic as he talked last week, and the crowd actually popped for him a little bit more. They did pop more for him last week than this week, but he got a decent reaction, and maybe there is a little life left in the Val Venus character. I don't know.
All right, guys, I hate to cut this short, but I got to leave you.
Hey, dude, we appreciate you calling in. We'll holler at you next week here on the Interactive
Interview.
Thank you
very much for having me.
Have a good one, buddy.
If I can give my opinion as well, I'd also like to say that I actually do like the Masterpiece gimmick. I think it's getting over. I think it's working, and I think that in a few months, if he gets the proper push, he could be somebody that we can start seeing in the upper mid-card.
Now, before we get on to our next match, I'd like to remind everyone listening to the show, our phone lines are now open that our friend Eric Clancy has left us. The number is 480-965-1260. Once again, that is 480-965-1260. You guys call in, we'll get you on there, and we'll discuss a little wrestling.
You can also win tickets.
You can win some tickets to Raw. I keep forgetting about those. If you're in the Arizona area, we got tickets for Raw to give away. Call in, same number, 480-965-1260, and we'll get them out to you.
Yes. 8th row tickets.
It is, in fact, 8th row tickets. Some good tickets.
Yeah.
Our next match was, actually this wasn't a match, it was a segment. This was the much-touted contract signing between Triple H and Batista, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give my opinion right off the bat here. Not that I don't already do that anyway, but nevertheless, This seemed a little scripted. I thought Triple H kind of fell over his words a little bit, wasn't really playing well off the crowd, and the Batista seemed to be a little scripted. I know, James, you'd felt similar.
Actually, I thought Triple H did really well on his promo. I thought, as usual, he delivered a 5-star performance on the mic. In addition, I thought Batista sounded terrible. I thought he came out, he seemed a little bit scripted, he didn't really know what he was talking about, just kind of rambling and going nowhere with what he had to say. And I mean, he came out and he said, "I'm going to get you, Triple H." Maybe perhaps not like that, but just about.
Brian, you're on the air with the interactive interview. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on?
What'd you think of the Triple H Batista promo last night?
I don't remember it. I remember
Wow.
I'll tell you what, that says it all right there. It was obviously too scripted. It didn't have the passion that we would expect to come from Triple H. Batista, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was obviously too well scripted. It didn't seem sincere.
Yeah, I still can't believe the whole Cena thing. It's just.
I know, it's out of control, dude, right?
Yeah, it just blew everything. All my, who I thought was gonna go where is just gone, completely gone.
I'll
Tell you what, though, they changed 15% of Batista's character last night.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a new theme song.
Oh, dude, we're not even going to go there this week.
Oh, no.
15%.
The 15% thing's dead. Whatever, dude. You're crazy. Everyone knows it. Moving on. Who do you think is going to be the first pick in SmackDown, Brian, if we can ask you that? If you have to take a shot in the dark.
I would say Triple H. And I would say Triple H wins the Hell in a Cell and takes that belt over to SmackDown.
You are my man, dude. Let me tell you what. That's the same theory I have. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth later on in the show. But I'll tell you what. I got a gut feeling that Triple H is going to take this in the Hell in the Cell, and he's going to take his belt, and he's going to jet over to SmackDown. And I don't think it's going to be that bad for Batista either, simply because Batista is going to say, I beat him 3 times, he beat me once, and then he ran away.
Well, Batista-Cena feud right now. I mean, they had a little thing at the Royal Rumble.
That's true, but I don't know who would be the heel. The fans seem to like them both. I think they like Cena a little bit more. But music gimmicks burn out quick. Anybody remember Mad Mountain Rock?
Yeah.
Point exactly. Music gimmicks burn out. This will burn out. I don't know if this is going to last forever. However, I think over the two, I think John Cena will be the one the fans prefer.
Now, you guys are telling me you're not rather seeing a Christian versus Cena feud at this point in time?
No, I want to see Christian.
You got to, right, man?
Yeah.
They could have in my opinion, a good 2 or 3 month feud that would be entertaining the whole way through.
Yeah, I think they kind of buried him early on in Raw whenever they had Christian and Cena in the ring together.
Yeah, I think they did. I think there's no doubt about it. The Christian's been unnecessarily pushed down.
I think they told him to shut up.
But, he came on strong last night, and like I said, I'm going to make a bold statement. To me, this is like Austin and Rock over again. You got 2 people that can talk, 2 people that incite reactions from the crowd, and I'm glad to see it happening.
Well, I will say this, too. Christian is a fantastic talker. I thought he was one of the better talkers on the show. He came out there. I think he might have even gotten as big of a reaction as Cena when he first came out because people were like, oh, yeah, this is going to be good. So that's tremendous. I'm looking forward to see what these guys can pull out of their hat. I think they will be the next Rock and Triple H, or Rock and Austin.
I think Christian needs a new move.
Say again?
I think Christian needs a new move. I don't like the unprettier. It's too...
It takes too long to apply.
Yeah, it takes too long to apply, exactly.
Well, I think if he gets into main event status, he'll have a little more time to work matches and really show off more his in-ring ability. It's hard to show what you can do in, 5-6 minute matches.
Yeah.
Or, previously before that, if you're always in Hell in the Cell or in tag matches, you don't really get a good opportunity to show your repertoire of moves to the fans. And
my favorite finishers, though, are ones that come out of nowhere, like the DDT or the Diamond Cutter. Those two are the ones that are like, bam! They hit, and you're just shocked.
Michael's super kick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, let me ask you one more question before that should go.
Mm-hmm.
Our next match of the evening was Victoria, as well as the Heartthrobs taking on Rosie, Hurricane, and Christy Hemme. What did you think of this match? I didn't think it was actually that bad myself.
Christy is not a wrestler.
Well, nobody said she was, but she's trying.
It's just,
as a matter of fact, why don't I go ahead and let you know that we had a conversation with a current WWE diva, WWE performer, earlier today, and we had discussed this with her. And you can check her out on the internet show on WrestlingEpicenter.com later this week, and it will be Ivory. So,
Ivory?
Yes, indeed.
In fact, we're breaking it right here. We got Ivory coming on this Thursday. It's going to be up Thursday night.
She said the same thing that I do. Christy's not a wrestler. We all know it, but give her a break. She's trying,
and I thought she did all right last night for what she could do. She seemed intense.
They're trying to give her some kind of an edge.
And, she's in there with a good worker in Victoria that can help carry her to a decent match,
Not
like
Lita's
Trish Stratus did. So what do you give that match, though, on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10?
God.
A minus 40. No. Just
Yeah, no, I would give it like a 2. I mean, it barely even kept my attention.
I will say
I
it's
hear
a
you,
6.
dude.
I give it a 6.
I'm kind of a penis. I can say that on the air. I'm kind of a penis for asking you such a weak question, but that was what we were on topic, so I had to say it, dude.
But the best thing about Raw, no viscera.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, man, I hate that. I hate that. There's some guys on the forums that love it, but I cannot understand why.
Speak to it, brother.
It's just...
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
It is. You know, I find it entertaining myself. I think it's kind of funny. I'll admit it goes long, but I think it's all right. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's okay.
It's a waste of airtime. They could put something else on, something with Simon Dean or anybody. I mean, come on.
I agree and disagree. I think it's growing on me, entertainment-wise, but I don't think it's by any means the greatest thing that they do.
This is why WWE needs competition.
Well, they're not going to get it from TNA.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, Brian, we appreciate your call, man. We appreciate your loyal work to the websites. You are the man, brother. You have a good one.
You too.
For those listening, he is Majin Raditz.
He is, in fact, the one and only Imagine Raditz. So once again, our phone lines are open, 480-965-1260. We're going to move right along. We had next our ECW rules match. This was refereed by Earl Hebner. It was Chris Benoit versus Gene Snitsky. And what do we see here? The Dudley Boys coming in, wreaking a little hell, raising a little hell, throwing some people through the tables. It was all right.
Devon didn't have to get the tables this time.
The tables were already in place for him, it seemed.
Yes, very, very impressive 3D through the table. I find it ironic that he went stomach first through it since he's been out of action with a stomach blood clot. So that was a little ironic if you don't mind me saying so.
Hey, I don't mind.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I liked this segment. I thought the fans popped pretty good. It was nice to see Bubba and Devon in ECW shirts once again, much like I am right now. And I thought it was pretty good.
Following this was the final segment of the evening. We had all the ECW stars from the past. Not all of them, I can't say. But we had quite a few ECW stars come out, like Serrano, Sandman, Axel Rotten, Balls Mahoney. We had some big name guys come out, chase off some WWE guys. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get really in-depth into this a little bit later on in the show. But this does not bode well for the ECW pay-per-view, and I'm going to tell you why just a bit later. What did you think of this segment, though, James?
I actually enjoyed it because the crowd was so into it, even though, once again, I will say that 50% of the crowd probably did not know who half these guys were. And I say that because I don't believe all these people that are saying ECW actually watched it. I think they're full of it. But that notwithstanding, there's only one part of this I did not like. First of all, I want to give them credit on a good part, is that they've done a fantastic job promoting it, but on a bad part, they made ECW look like gold and WWF look like crap.
And I think that's where we're going to agree a little bit later on in the show. But at this point in time, we got to take a quick break. We're going to bring it back with the Matt Hardy interview, much anticipated. You got to keep it locked right here to the interactive interview
the
on the
Sensei
Blaze,
of Matitude.
It's a great interview, guys. I think you're going to like it. Keep it locked right here to the interactive.
What's up, everybody? This is Matt Stryker, and you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Cool, man. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you guys?
Good. We got to start off the show. It seems appropriate. What's a Matt fact for today?
Matt fact. Here's today's Matt fact. Matt facts. Matt is a huge fan of Arizona.
There we go. Excellent. Excellent.
Too bad I'm not, and I live here.
That's actually very true. I love Phoenix. Phoenix is a really beautiful area. A lot of good stuff going on there, and I know it's growing, and it's getting nicer and nicer every day.
It is growing very much. I moved here about 5 years ago, and now when I walk down the street, it's a totally different scene than when I was here 5 years ago. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's got warm weather, and that's another Matt fact. Matt is a huge fan of warm weather. I cannot stand cold weather. Just being out there, that dry heat, I dig that. So I could definitely live out there.
Something that always interests me is why wrestlers decide to get into wrestling. What attracted Matt Hardy to get into the ring?
Just the thing that initially attracted me was just watching it as a kid and being a big fan, and I just said, wow, look at these guys. They're almost portrayed like as real-life living superheroes because, everyone has this gimmick and they have this great character. And you see these guys do these superhuman things, and they're actually out there and they're fighting these guys and jumping off the top rope. And, there's so many great things rolled into one. There's athleticism, there's drama, there's entertainment, there's humor, there's, a little bit of everything. And just seeing that was very attractive to me. And I just said, wow, that's cool. That's what I would like to do. And my brother...
A little bit about why you got into wrestling, if you want to start there again.
Yeah, I'll just start with that. Well, the initial reason, my brother and I wanted to get into wrestling is just because we were big fans growing up. Watching it, these guys were larger than life, almost superheroes. In the ring, they would go out and they would do all these incredible moves to each other, and they would jump off the top rope, and they would just be able to absorb all this pain and all this punishment. You're like, whoa, these guys are cool. And then everyone had gimmicks or real life characters. And then just seeing these guys and everything they did, there were so many great elements rolled into one package. There was athleticism and drama and humor and just a little bit of everything. It was just a very appealing package. I was like, wow, that seems like it would just be a blast to do. And then on top of that, you would be famous and you'd be in the ring and you get to do all this cool stuff. So we said, well, let's try and pursue that and do that one day, and eventually we did.
Well, in the early days, I'm a big tape trader, and in the early days of your career, you guys ran Omega, and I remember thinking that stuff was totally different than anything else I was getting in my tape trades. What was so different, in your opinion, about Omega than any other indie out there at the time?
I think with us, it was just a lot of younger guys who had a different mentality about the business, who kind of thought outside the lines as far as the way the business had worked prior. Like we just wanted to incorporate more athleticism. We wanted to be more exciting than other matches you saw, and we still tried to kind of tell good stories, and we tried to, make our matches still build in the process, but we also incorporated a lot more. We had a lot more high spots, and it was a lot more athleticism oriented, and we really worked hard, man. We'd go out and we'd bust our ass in front of, 150 people every night. And I think that's what it was. It was just a bunch of young guys who were kind of thinking outside the lines and who were willing to step it up a little bit. And as you can see, that's eventually what the business became.
Yes.
In the mid-'90s, after reading your book, a lot of people learned that you were involved in a lot of squash matches at around 94, 95, that period of time. How did the locker room compare between that period of time and when the Hardy Boys, when they were absolutely huge in late 90s, 2000s?
It wasn't a huge difference, I wouldn't say, just because even then when we first started and we were doing TV, I mean, all the guys were very cool with us. Really, I think more than the locker room changing over the years, it's the office that has changed over the years. Because before, back in the day, there was just Vince, and then there were a couple of agents, and there was, at one point when they first started having writers, there was, Vince Russo, and then Ed was his assistant, but now there's, Vince, and there's Stephanie and Hunter, and now there's 10 or 12 writers, and there's 10 or 12 agents, and there's just so many people that are throwing all these ideas in. I think a lot of stuff kind of gets lost in the shuffle there because there's almost too many ideas and too many opinions and too many perspectives. As far as the locker room goes, I think the locker room, the guys, the boys, the wrestlers, they really haven't changed that much because everybody that is there really has to bust their ass and they have to work hard, and everybody respects one another, usually just because you're doing the same thing and you're entrusting each other with your life and limb. But as far as really changes in the system, obviously it was definitely the office more than the locker room.
Did you see those opportunities as, those squash matches as tryouts to get a bigger position in the WWE?
Always. I mean, Jeff and I, our mentality was just like, if we go out here and if we can't do anything offensively, what if we do some fabulous bump, something that looks amazingly from a defensive point of view, and just let the people in management or the people in charge go, wow, that kid took an awesome bump over the top rope to the floor. That took some talent to do that. Or at least, at a minimum, make sure they kind of remember your name and your face.
Yes. You were involved in the... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, you were involved in the Funkin' Conservatory. Did you learn a lot from Dory?
Yeah, it's kind of that's an interesting question, just because there were a lot of things, by the time you're signed to the WWE, especially back in the day, it's not quite the scenario now because there's not as many places to be out there and learn, and not as many territories, quote unquote. But really, by the time you get to that level, you should know most everything. But there were a lot of little things that Dory knew just from all his years of experience. Just like a little thing here, just like maybe a way to react or a way to, a way to sell or a way to register something. Just real little things that are the true mark of a pro that he helped us out with a whole lot.
We're very high on one of the guys that Dory trained, Adam Windsor. Do you know anything about Adam, and what do you think of him?
I really don't know much about him. I've met him several times because I know he's Dory's top protege, and he's a very nice guy, and I know he's worked really hard, obviously, because he's worked with Dory all these years. So I don't know much about him other than that every time I've met him, he's just been a very nice guy.
In 1999, you and Jeff were managed by Michael Hayes, who, of course, was a member of the Fabulous Freebirds. Were you a Freebirds fan?
Yeah, I actually was. I was a big Freebirds fan. Actually, was a huge fan of the reincarnation of the Freebirds that were Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin when they were in late NWA, early WCW, when Jimmy Garvin was running around every week going, yeah, 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 yeah. And that was the word that came out of his mouth more than anything else. I dug both those guys, and I thought Michael was always a really good character and very charismatic and really did good interviews.
And this brings up an interesting question. Of course, Jeff is doing his music. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I wouldn't even try. And Michael Hayes, of course, and the Freebirds were a rock and roll, the first rock and roll gimmick in wrestling. What is in Matt Hardy's CD library at the moment, or CD player at the moment?
It's a good question. Actually, it's a good time for you to spring this on me because I just answered that recently. Right now, the things I have in my CD player, I always usually keep some Pearl Jam in there. I've got a little burned a CD that I've burned with all my favorite Pearl Jam stuff. Got Pearl Jam, 50 Cent, Eminem, Blink-182, Tool, Perfect Circle.
Interesting.
Interesting little combo. A lot of I listen to some R&B and some rap and alternative. That's probably the main two genres of music I listen to.
We recently had Stevie Ray on the show, and a big portion of the conversation was about his take on what the tag team divisions are missing. Obviously, most people would consider you an expert on tag team wrestling. What do you think is currently missing from WWE's tag team division?
Well, the biggest thing that's missing more than anything else is just the actual office getting behind some tag teams. It's just, as far as the quality of tag teams there, it's not like just tag teams pop up and then they just become great on their own. They have to have an office behind them, especially in the professional wrestling business, where it is, the business and the product is all driven on what management decides to do with certain teams. Sure, when we came along, it was us, and it was Edge and Christian, and we were putting on good matches, and we kind of forced them to do something, and then the Dudleys were kind of injected into that formula. Mm-hmm. Just now, you have La Resistance, there's Hurricane and Rosie, there's a couple other teams, but really, you have to make those tag team titles important, and you have to put them in some important matches. You have to give them time, you have to let them make that mean something. You just can't have your tag teams out there getting beat up by the world champion and doing handicap matches every week. That's going to kill your tag team division.
Yeah, and the thing that confuses me is in the late 80s and early 90s, the tag team division was so strong, and of course in the late 90s and the early 2000s with, you and your brother, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Outlaws at one point, and you had so many tag teams, and tag teams can obviously draw money. It's been proven in the past. Why do you think the office's philosophy about that has changed?
I don't know. It's just they go in cycles. They get lazy. That's the only thing I can really attribute it to. It's like if they would stumble upon something, and they might do it again, but it's just you have to work for those things. If you want to have a women's division make money, you really have to work hard on having a good women's division. If you want to make a tag team division make money, you have to work hard on making a good tag team division. If you want to make a cruiserweight division make money, which it can, you have to work good on making a good cruiserweight division. But even looking at WWE right now, you can kind of look through, and the only thing you're really concerned about is their heavyweight titles.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
James.
Okay, one of the things that shined through in a lot of your TLC matches, and we just talked about that quickly, was your grasp on psychology in the middle of insanity. When you're looking at the indies today, you see a lot of companies out there that have a lot of high spot guys, and they don't seem to understand the idea of psychology. It's kind of like, well, I could do a 450 splash, but I can't, make it make sense in the psychology of the match. Do you think that that's a big problem that the young guys in the business are having, that finding that appropriate psychology?
I think so. I think, especially in this day and age, it's a very fine line. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because the fans are so demanding, and they are so smart, and you just can't go out there. You just can't go out there and give them a boring old standard wrestling match. That doesn't work these days. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, you can go by the same standard formula, and you can put some spice in it, and you can put some hot spots in there. You just have to position them in the right places. And once you do something that is big and impactful, you have to make sure it means something. A lot of people, lose the concept of making these things mean something, because they'll have some big spot and then boom, they'll be back up doing something else again. But the thing is, a wrestling match is just like watching a play or like watching an opera or watching any kind of movie. It's all as real as, as it's written or it's performed. if you know what I'm saying. And once you get out there and you're in a wrestling match, and if you do something that kind of breaks that line of where, well, that couldn't be real because he couldn't be up from that already, and that's when you start losing people. And that's where the problem is now, I think, because it's a fine line of doing that, and a lot of people just become hot spot happy, and that's all they think of is like, okay, well, we got to top the last thing, and top this, and top that, and do this, and that's okay. We don't need to slow down at all. We need to do this again. So I think it's very much finding a fine line, and I think a lot of people just don't get an opportunity to work with people that have been experienced or have really been good workers in the past.
What goes through your mind? What goes through your mind when you're about to get into like a TLC match and you know that you're going to take? I mean, you're known as a daredevil. What do you exactly goes through your mind before you do some of these high spots? I mean, do you think about the potential of danger?
A lot of prayer. No, actually, I mean, it's just I think for me too. Like I always tried to take as many calculated risks as possible. You know, I would try to know what I was doing, but I would never do something that I just thought that, like, there's no way I can do this without coming out of it safe. You know, and some of it may not look like that, and in actuality some of it probably wasn't like that, but in my mind I tried to do, whenever I did do daring stuff, I tried to do the stuff that I felt most comfortable with, that I could, you know, handle in a stuntman-like capacity. So, you know, it's one of those things, man, you got to go out there and you really can't overthink it as far as being involved in a match and performing a lot of stunts like that. You have to kind of go out there and just have your head screwed on straight and just know, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to think twice about it, because a lot of times when you think twice is when you get hurt.
We had talked a little bit earlier about taking bumps, you know, that were helping people such as yourself get over in the early days. Kind of to branch off of that, you yourself always sold moves, you know, very, very well in the ring, and it made your character that much more believable. Today it seems like no selling is kind of the standard issue. What are your thoughts on that?
I just don't think you can have that, man. Just like I said, it's just like watching a movie. If you've got some hero in a movie that gets shot 5 times, you know, and he's not hurt, or, you know, he's not in a fight for his life trying to heal up and come back out of the bad guys. If he just gets shot 5 times and then just kicks the bad guy ass afterwards, I mean, there's really no emotion involved in there. And the whole thing with selling in the wrestling business is about invoking emotion. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, because the reason people tune in and watch the show is to be entertained, and you have to have emotion for the guy that you like and the guy that you hate.
I did a little bit of ghostwriting myself. I was assisting for a short time on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's autobiography, which is yet to be released or even completed, to be honest with you. But, of course, you guys, the Hardy Boys, released a book. I guess my question for you is, how involved were you in the actual process of doing that? As by reading The Rock's book, it was pretty clear that he was not very involved at some points.
I was very, very involved. Actually, as far as the book goes, as far as even input in the book, I did about 90% to Jeff's 10% probably.
Wow.
Even going back reading through the book, like a lot of the quotes that are, you know, stated as being from Jeff were actually from me, because we worked with a ghostwriter as well, who was actually a pretty diehard wrestling fan, and he's also a rock and roll writer. He did some stuff for Rolling Stone, so he was a good guy to work with, and I actually spent hours on end. He actually went on the road with me, traveled with me, and actually I wrote stuff and submitted it to him, and then he would critique it or change it, and then, you know, whenever he'd get through with a particular draft, you know, he'd send it to me, and there'd be things I'd go back and change or ask and say, well, we can't say this, or could we say this differently, and we really wouldn't say that. You know, so I was actually very hands-on, where Jeff wasn't, but, you know, Jeff still gets half the credit or whatever, but that's the story of my life.
I remember there was a time when you and Jeff were compared to Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, with you being parallel to Marty Jannetty. You ended up outlasting Jeff in the WWE. What would you say was the major difference between you getting over and I mean, Jeff was over as well, but you being able to have a little bit more longevity?
I mean, I just have a lot better head for the business than Jeff does, and he would say that too. And just also Jeff's passion was kind of running out at that point, where it wasn't even, you know, his main interest at that time wasn't wrestling. I mean, his dream was to be a wrestler and wrestle with the WWE and to be the tag team champions and be successful in it. And he'd done that, and he'd done that, and he was kind of burnt out from being on the road and being gone all the time. Jeff at heart is very much a homebody, and you know, that really wasn't his dream anymore. He kind of had different things that he wanted to do in his life, and it just wasn't as fun for him as it was at one point. You know, where for me it's still fun and I still love it, and you know, it's just ridiculous. The whole circumstances and the reasons that I'm not there now is absolutely absurd. And, you know, I should still be there in reality, but you know, the whole reason why is just I had a better grasp on like what to do and when to do it at the right times than Jeff did, and that's probably why I ended up doing, you know, a little better for him, so a little better than him whenever we split. And you know, Jeff had his strengths, and I always try to highlight those strengths whenever we'd have tag matches. He had some things that he could do physically that I couldn't do, and he was a lot more graceful. And, you know, even from a personality standpoint, like his personality is very, very strong, and it's hard to compete with his, regardless of who you are.
Actually, a few years ago, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said, actually, I was going to say a few years ago, we actually saw you and Jeff on an episode of Fear Factor, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
What was it like to actually do that show? Because you guys had to go through some pretty sick things. If I'm not mistaken, there was a few milkshakes that you guys had to drink.
I did. Jeff was the first person eliminated. He actually was the first person kicked off the show. But no, I did that. I actually drank. We had like the blender of fear, whatever the stunt was. But it was a base of pig brains, 2 cow spleens, and a scoop of animal fat. And it was one of those big margarita, one of those big drink glasses like you get in a TGI Fridays or a Ruby Tuesdays. It was huge, and it was pretty disgusting. But fortunately, I was able to take it down because my dad always cooked for me growing up, so I was used to eating nasty stuff. it was fun, man. That Fear Factor show, actually, I had a blast on there. I would definitely do it again. It was a good time.
You mentioned that your brother wanted to be a tag team champion. You seem to have wanted to be a singles wrestler. Is that accurate?
Well, no, my first goal more than anything else, and my ultimate goal whenever we wanted to sign was to be tag team champions, in which we did that, 6 times over. But, yeah, my goal now, I would still say, is to be a singles heavyweight champion of a major promotion. And that would always have been my goal in the WWE. I think if you're very serious and dedicated about being in the business and you're in the WWE, I think that should be your goal. If that's not your goal, then I really don't know why you're there.
Right.
And as far as things go now, there's TNA, there's Ring of Honor out there, and that would definitely be my goal in all those places, to be the champion.
Matt, you just mentioned that you and your brother were 6-time World Tag Team Champions. Did you think that, I always felt that the WWE could have given both of you, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, longer reigns to really prolong the amount that the tag team could really go, because Edge and Christian, I believe, captured it 7 times in a year span, and people, just didn't get excited after they captured the titles. Do you think the shorter reigns hurt the teams in the long run?
I think the shorter reigns hurt the titles more than the teams, because I think it just takes away from the the prestige of the titles. I mean, there was a point there whenever we bought WCW, like the title switched every week. You couldn't even keep up with who the champion was. Like, I remember back in the day when Jeff and I were growing up, like, we could list every Intercontinental champion back to back when they had decent reigns. But there came a point where I had no idea who. I was working there. I didn't even have an idea who the champion was, because every week there was a title switching. It was absurd. And I think really more than hurting the talent, I think it just, because talent, they win matches, they lose matches, whatever. I think it just takes away from the prestige of the title more than anything else.
You were one of.
You guys are giving me a lot of today. You hear my comments?
We just have don't want to interrupt you, so we just to tell you that we are interested. But you were one of the first people that Brock Lesnar feuded with upon his entrance into the WWE. How was Brock to work with?
Brock was at the very beginning, he was very humble, very gracious, and I remember he was just very, very thankful of everything that I would do for him, and we'd make him like $1 million, both Jeff and I, and he was just very, 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 very thankful of that.
So you said at the beginning, did that change later on?
Yeah, I think just as time went on, and with a lot of guys, I mean, Brock just kind of, he got used to being a star and got used to being the center of attention, and that kind of ate him up a little bit. It definitely overtook the Brock Lesnar that started there in the beginning.
Got a question coming in from RSBH123 from our chat room. He wants to know who originally came up with the idea and name Mattitude.
I did.
Really? Cool, man.
The whole concept when I was a singles wrestler, every bit of that was my idea. Nothing WWE or office driven. It was all mine. Unfortunately, I was just able to. They gave me the green light on doing it.
I remember when you, after your Cruiserweight title run, you were unbelievably over on the SmackDown brand, and it seemed only natural to go for the U.S. title next, and then eventually push you as a world title contender. Why the move to Raw?
Well, very interesting question. At that point, that's when Amy, Lita, had been out with neck surgery, and we'd been together and been pretty serious for a while. and just for the sake of our relationship, and so that it wouldn't be damaged, and we would see each other, and we were both trying to make that the most important thing at that point in our careers, because we thought we had a long future together. I was going to switch over to SmackDown, and she'd asked Vince as well, and I'd asked Vince as well if we could be on the same schedule just so it wouldn't damage our relationship.
We all know the situation with you, Lita, and Edge. We kind of made a little bit of an effort to take the interview in a separate direction, but unfortunately, we do have to ask, how do you feel about what's going on TV right now between the two of them on the screen, and how does it make you feel that they're exploiting a real-life situation?
Well, it's nothing that I wouldn't have expected. It's because it was what they do, And the big thing with me now is just because I don't want to see it, so I don't watch right now. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing, because not that I couldn't watch it, it's just that I don't watch it. And it's to me, I think it's very it's very tasteful, especially from my personal perspective, and just considering everything I did for the company over 7 years I was there. I had so many great experiences there, but just the way it ended was just absolutely just horrible. And everything was handled so poorly.
At this point in time, if you and Edge were asked to work together in some capacity, do you feel that you both could put your personal differences aside for the good of your professional careers?
Well, as I've said this before, it's pretty much my standard answer on this, but I would just never say never. I don't know. I would guess if that was going to benefit my career as far as working and becoming a bigger star, then yeah, maybe. But with that being said, if I stepped in the ring with Adam Copeland, just considering all our personal issues, I really don't know what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to answer. I'm very torn when I'm asked that question.
I think people probably ask you that so much because we'd all love to see, Matt back in the WWE. And from what we were understood, the upcoming WrestleMania, you were set to come back just before the situation had broke. And I know I personally, as well as many of the people listening to our show, were really excited to have you come back on TV. So, it's just a question that everyone asks if you could work, because, it would be hard to picture you back there and not in the storyline capacity address the situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Does it warm your heart or make you feel good to hear the fans chanting, "We want Matt"?
I mean, absolutely, man. There's no way. I don't think there's any way that it couldn't. It's just really the ultimate form of flattery in a lot of ways, just that people remember, especially from being off TV 6 or 7 months, having a major knee surgery, and just considering that people were so outraged with the situation. I think really a lot of people they chant, once they hear about the situation, I think they don't chant as much just because they think Matt Hardy's the greatest wrestler of all time. I just think they really chant because they feel very sympathetic. And a lot of people have been involved in the same situation, and they really sympathize with the whole situation I'm in, especially like losing, the girl you're planning on marrying, and also losing your dream job. People are very sympathetic towards it. So, yeah, believe me, that's music in my ears whenever I hear that.
Absolutely.
Well, this will be the last question about this situation, since I'm sure you've been asked it about a zillion times. But I was just curious, because there's been rumors all over the internet that Vince has contacted you about coming back to somehow be a part of this storyline. Is that true, or is that completely false?
I haven't spoken to Vince. I've talked with people in the WWE, not necessarily on that, but I have spoken with people in the WWE, but I haven't spoken to Vince directly.
I just do want to ask you this one more. And we've talked about your release quite a bit, and I know that you came back, and it was the night that seemed to be just a night of follies with the slashing of the tires, which I know you had nothing to do with, and Shannon Moore's car accident. And I mean, at that point, did you have any idea that they were just going to cut you loose?
Well, even when I've been asked that, it's kind of, in some ways, just considering the way the situation was handled, how I was kind of the guy on the outside, because both Amy and Adam were on TV at that point. And, Adam was in the midst of a big push, and then I was the guy that was just kind of, I was off TV, and the office was they were kind of shunning me in the situation. It's like, they didn't necessarily condone what they did, but they never said it was wrong, or they never said stop this. So I knew that didn't look good from that perspective. And it surprised me because I didn't think they would really stoop to that level and, release me considering the circumstances. But with that being said, WWE, and things don't surprise me. Whenever it happened, I realized that was definitely a possibility. It's that whole thing about the tire slashing thing.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting thing, too, and I've never said this anywhere else on any other radio interview. It's actually on my DVD once it comes out, and I go into detail and elaborate on that. One of the things I found out is that whenever Edge's tires were slashed, I found out that the guy who either had something to do with it or either called the office and reportedly told them that I did it and that I was trying to, like take a hit on Edge or damage his vehicle or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a guy who used to be a friend of mine back in the day, and ever since Amy and I broke up, his old girlfriend, her and I started seeing each other some, and that was and he wrestled for one point at the WWE as well, and he actually called that into the WWE, and I heard that was one of the determining things that caused my release. And that was something that was an absolute setup and I had nothing to do with. And I actually go into detail about that on a DVD that Jeff and I have coming out in a few weeks, the Ultimate Insiders DVD, which was another big thing.
And where can people pick that up?
It'll be available from Big Vision Entertainment, and if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be selling that on the Pro Wrestling Torch for the first few weeks when they sell it across the internet, and then it'll be on DirecTV, and then it will be available in stores everywhere within 3 or 4 months wherever you can buy WWE DVD.
Excellent.
I remember hearing a few weeks ago, I didn't actually, or a month maybe ago, I'm not sure exactly what was said, but was there a bit of a kind of a verbal sparring between you and Triple H?
I don't know if there was a verbal sparring as far as that goes. Do you mean like in person or?
Like Triple H may have said something and then you responded on an interview somewhere. I didn't actually hear what Triple H said.
I think what apparently, and I don't even know if Hunter said this or not. Someone asked me and said that Hunter made a comment saying that it was no big deal to me being released, that I never drew any money. And I just said, well, I don't know if he said that or not, and I'm not going to speculate if he did. I said, but that is something he said. I think to me that'd be a pretty petty statement, and there's no way you can argue that Matt Hardy is one half of the Hardy Boys, wasn't a huge money drawer when Jeff and I were together. Not only for that demographic that we, that we attracted, but also for merchandise. Jeff and I sold more merchandise than any other tag team in the history of the business.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I remember I was sitting in a comic book store with my friend. He was a big comic fan at the time. And, they had all the WWE action figures at the time. And, the kids were coming in. They're like, well, yeah, there's The Rock and there's Triple H, but where's the Hardy Boys? So, I remember thinking that, like, wow, for a tag team, that's pretty big.
I saw the figures from the merchandising people. Like, over our span of time that we were together as a tag team, we sold more merchandise than any other tag team that's ever been in the business.
Wow.
Of course, we were there at a great time, too, when business was red hot during the boom, but facts are fact. And there were a lot of people, a lot of young girls, a lot of young kids that were paying, were buying tickets and paying to see Matt and Jeff Hardy at that point. And
yeah.
Like, Matt Hardy's a singles wrestler. As when I was, version 1 and Sensei of Attitude, there were a lot of people that were paying to see me then too.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we switch gears a little bit? We talked a little bit before about the Cruiserweight division. What do you think the WWE needs to do currently to help improve the Cruiserweight division? Since you had left as a champion, it doesn't seem to have the same drawing power, the same big feel about it.
It's just, once again, man, you kind of have to keep the Cruiserweight division off as kind of an island to itself. You have to cut those guys loose, and the whole thing that makes the Cruiserweight division special is you have smaller guys that can do things that the big muscle guys can't do. And you have to let those guys do that, and whenever these guys do that and they become special, you can't put them in the ring with, whoever, your heavyweight champion, and have the heavyweight champion squash them and beat them in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? The thing is, with the Cruiserweight division, you have to let these guys go. You have to let them have exciting matches and have a little bit of a faster style and a faster pace than your standard heavyweight matches. But then you also have to protect them. You can't just take them and use them as jobbers to your big stars because they're small guys that are in the Cruiserweight division.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch gears again. Now that you're free, now that you're no longer in the WWE, I don't know, there's a couple indies out there that might be interested in you. One I don't consider an indie, one I consider an indie, TNA and Ring of Honor. Where would Mattitude like to show up?
Well, I'm doing stuff. I'll be doing stuff for both those guys. As of right now, I'm already booked on doing some Ring of Honor stuff, and then once my 90-day compete clause is up, and I'm sure I'll be doing some TNA stuff with Jeff down there. And there's actually, as of right now, I'm booked every weekend all the way through October. So
wow.
It's almost too busy. And besides doing that, besides wrestling, I actually have a project that I'm working on right now, which is actually going to be the Matt Hardy show. And the last 5 or 6 days, I actually had a couple cameras with me and a producer, and they followed me around. And actually, Jeff and Lori, which is actually the girl that I'm now dating, around in just my everyday life, and also doing a lot of special extracurricular things. And it's going to be kind of like a reality show. It's kind of like a variety show as well, featuring Matt Hardy and his family, friends, and cast of characters.
Do you have a TV deal on that?
I'm working on that right now. What's that?
Do you have a TV deal?
What's going on right now is we're doing the first of a kind. There's never really been anything like this, where it's going to be a website where it's going to be a streaming video show, like, you know, every week or every other week, 20 or 30 minutes. And then every day there's also going to be different clips added on there. You know, it'll be a small fee or whatever. You join it for the site. There'll be constant new footage. And I saw some of the templates for the website, and it is out of the world. The guys out in New York that are doing it's really amazing. It's very lucky. It's just some guys that came to me considering the whole situation. They were interested in doing this, and they kind of had like this groundbreaking project. They were looking for somebody that had, you know, some name value and like a core group of fans that they want to do this with, and I was all about it. Just, you know, and some of the things that Jeff and I'll do together, and, you know, just other people. It's just I don't want to go into too many details and give away too much stuff, but it's going to be very, very entertaining. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. And with that being said, it's also going to be, you know, humorous, and there's going to be stuff that is, you know, a little controversial, and there's also going to be stuff that's very inspiring, and it's going to have something for everyone.
Now, speaking of TV deals, it sounds like the TNA TV deal with WGN is currently falling through. What's your gut feeling tell you about this? Do you think TNA is going to end up getting a TV deal?
Honest to God, man, I hear different things, so I'm not really sure. You know, I hear I hear yes, and then I hear no, and I hear yes probably 2 or 3 times a day. You know, so I'm not sure. My gut feeling says that I would think, considering the way that they've survived so far, at some point they would strike a TV deal. So I'm definitely hoping so, because regardless of where I go and work or do whatever, I mean, for TNA to get a TV deal and become legitimate competition for the WWE, I mean, that's very important for the business surviving as a whole, because the business needs that competition, man. It survives and thrives on that competition. Also, there's just so many talented guys out there right now that just you know, they just don't have a place to work because there's not that many slots open in the WWE.
Right.
Well, competition is, you know, what makes you better. If you have somebody to compete against, then you have to be better than they are, and that, you know, that leads to elevated television.
Competition makes the world go round, man.
Absolutely. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time. Do you mind if we just close out with a few word associations? Word associations being, if you have a one-word answer, that's great, but if you have a story, no problem, you can share that too. Okay, the first name on the list is Christian.
Cool ass guy.
How about Trish Stratus?
Hard worker.
Y2J Chris Jericho.
Fozzy.
Have you actually heard any of their stuff?
Yeah, I have heard. I've heard some of their stuff. I like some of the stuff, especially his new CD. I think it's really good. And I know he's all about that now, and he's very interested in doing that. And if that's something he can eventually branch off into, more power to him, because it's something he truly loves, and it's kind of a project that he's spawned from himself.
Because God knows he's not getting the push he deserves.
There you have it.
Yeah, Billy Kidman.
Itch.
Yeah, someone you started...
He used to scratch himself.
Yeah, I remember that. That was with the flock. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I don't even know what that was. Was he supposed to be an addict, or what was that? Or just unwashed?
Oh, yeah. It was like all of Raven's flock or whatever were all drug addicts and misfits and stuff. I guess he was supposed to be a heroin addict or something.
How about somebody that started out with you in Omega? How about Shane Helms?
I'm trying to think of something not so generic, but superhero, man. Also, too, underrated.
Shannon Moore.
Mohawk.
The Dudley Boys.
Tables.
I've got an interesting one here that was submitted by somebody who actually knows you. I don't know if you know him. His name is Chris Pantograph. He asked me to ask you about Sting.
Ask him about Sting. That's actually funny. I think my dad knows this cat. And I don't know what the Sting reference is. Sting is actually Jeff was a big fan of Sting growing up. Like, Jeff emulated Sting quite a bit growing up. But Sting was actually one of my favorites as well. So when you say Sting, I'll say early favorite.
How about the master of psychology himself, in my opinion, Bret the Hitman Hart?
Awesome.
And Jim Ross?
A friend. I still consider JR a friend to this day. He was the guy that hired me, and if JR would have been in the talent relation position when all this stuff went down instead of John Laurinaitis, like, I wouldn't be in this position right now. I'll tell you that.
I got 3 names left, and one of them is not that easy, so I'll make that one the first one. How about Lita?
Disappointment.
Vince McMahon.
The wrestling god, man.
And the last name on the list is your brother, Jeff Hardy.
Late is all I can say for that.
Excellent, man. We really can't appreciate...
Anything else?
We can't thank you enough for your time. Would you mind just giving us a plug for your website so you can, anybody that wants to keep up on the things coming out in Matt Hardy's career?
Yeah, most definitely so. I would like to give a plug. Everybody can keep up with Matt Hardy by going over to thematthardy.com. And if there's anyone out there that would like to email me, you can email me at the angelicdiablo@earthlink.net. That comes directly to me. I read all those, and I try and respond to all the ones I can. And very soon, you guys will be able to check out, hopefully within 4 to 5 weeks. It should be starting within like 4 weeks or so. It'll be the Matt Hardy Show, which is going to be the ultimate variety reality show.
You mentioned Angelic Diablo. I just wanted to ask you, what does that mean?
Angelic Diablo is almost like, to me, it's a version. It's just like how they say within everyone there's a good side and a bad side. You know, everyone has those different parts of their personality.
Mm-hmm.
The Angelic Diablo is like the angel and the devil, within me. That's what that represents. And the whole concept for this gimmick originally was built as an idea I came up with, like kind of to change my character whenever I came back. Originally stemming off the Lita and Kane angle when, Amy was forced into marrying Kane.
Right.
And the Angelic Diablo, the whole concept behind it was going to be something similar to a Punisher or Crow vigilante type character. Someone who, in the course of their life, had a great life, and then all of a sudden everything was stripped away from them, everything was taken from them, and now their whole goal in life is to make sure that same event doesn't happen to anyone else that's innocent or anyone else that's fair, and make sure that the people that are guilty or corrupt are punished, and punished heavily for whatever they do.
Seems pretty fitting, man. We really can't thank you enough, and we hope you have a tremendous remainder of your career. We'll be checking out the upcoming reality show, and we'll be plugging it to the best of our ability on our show. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
You can do that, and I'll tell you. Are you guys still there?
Yes, we're still here.
Yep. Just going to say, just for the record, too, man, that will be themattHardyShow.com whenever it comes up. Like I said, it's going to be about 4 weeks or so, and I want to thank you guys for having me, man, and keep in touch, man.
Hey, everybody out there, this is the franchise Shane Douglas telling you that when you want the lowdown, the best, the very bottom line of professional wrestling information, you got to listen right here. Interactive interview.
TheMattHardyShow.com. Missy Hyatt will be pissed. What did you think of this interview, Mr. D?
I thought it was a good interview. I really liked the in-depth story behind the whole tire slashing incident. Matt's a great guy. I can't wait to have him on again. I don't know about his whole Angelic Diablo character that he's referring to, but it could get over. It was kind of the same thing they tried to do with Sean O'Hara, I feel like.
Or Mordecai.
But overall...
Or as you like to call him, Mordiaki.
Yeah, Mordecai, Mordiaki, whatever. Overall, it was a good interview.
And if you want to hear this interview in its entirety, just check out the website this week. We will have the entire thing posted in the interviews section. You can hear the entire 45-minute interview with the Sensei of Mattitude, Mr. Hardy.
At www.wrestlingepicenter.com. Once again, that's www.wrestlingepicenter.com.
Or you can click the schedule at www.theblaze1260.com and click our link.
Yeah, but just go to wrestlingepicenter.com. I'll tell you what. We're going to get right into our SmackDown discussion here. We're going to breeze right through this because we still got a lot of material left to cover regarding ECW as well as the draft lottery. So, of course, SmackDown started out with Winner's Choice Battle Royal from last week. Kurt Angle won that Battle Royal. He picked Booker T's wife as his opponent. Blah, blah, blah.
And yet they made it a handicap match.
Right. And this leads us right into the actual beginning of SmackDown, which was Carlitos Cabana, as always. Matt Morgan came out. Big Show was out. Big Show got F5 through a table. Blah, blah, blah. It was really good. And don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to disrespect SmackDown at all. It's just there's too much stuff going on right now that we got to cover. Backstage, we have Booker T and Sharmell talking that Sharmell be taken out of her match. The two argued. They get put in a handicap match, as James said. Then we have a WWE Tag Team Championship match. It's M&M, which is Mercury, Nitro, and Melina versus Charlie Haas and Hardcore Holly for what seems to be
the 78th time.
Yes, this was a 15-minute Iron Man match. I don't understand the concept of 15-minute Iron Man match. Shouldn't every match be 15 minutes?
15-minute beanbag chair match, maybe. I don't know. It just seems like it was a bit weak. I think that this shows the lack of depth in the tag division currently, as they just seem to have no tag teams for them to go up against. Even Holly and Haas seems to be a mongrel tag team just kind of thrown together, and I don't know. I like M&M. I think they're a solid team. I think they have a good look. I think Melina adds a lot to their gimmick, but they absolutely must get more tag teams on SmackDown.
Up next, we had the Dudley Boys. They cut a promo surrounded by tables, wearing ECW shirts. Bubba said the only way out of New York at the pay-per-view was through a table. And then Devon, of course, yelled, "Testify!" After that, we had an extensive recap of the Rey Mysterio-Eddie Guerrero feud.
Because Rey did not make the show on time.
And therefore, Eddie Guerrero was not needed. So they showed a little recap of that. Then Angle came to the ring, started calling out Taz about ECW. An interesting segment. Taz basically backs ECW. Then we have the Booker T.
Taz will be doing color commentary on the ECW pay-per-view.
He will, right? I'm trying. I know this is dry, guys. I'm trying just to get... You know what, dude? Yeah? Let's just tell you the main event, then we're done with this, because there's just too much other stuff. So,
yes.
you know, I'm not... The winners were John Cena in the Big Show over Carlito and Matt Morgan. It was an okay match.
I think it was good to get Carlito in the mix with those big stars. John Cena will not be appearing on SmackDown again, so I guess he needed to get his licks in on Carlito since Carlito got one over on him. And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the future for Mr. Carlito, Caribbean Cool. I think, unfortunately, he's going to be ending up like Christian, over, but not getting a push.
All right, now let's get the real topic started here. The ECW pay-per-view, obviously One Night Stand, is coming up this Sunday on pay-per-view. Everyone's talking about it. There's a lot of good things going on, but there's some things with the pay-per-view, in my opinion, that are going a little bit awry. Obviously, the lack of Shane Douglas, the lack of Raven, and the lack of Jerry Lynn are all going to be big problems that the WWE needs to somehow overcome. And I also don't like the fact that in the Raw segment, we had the ECW guys get the better of the WWE guys. This sets a dangerous precedent that we've all come too familiar with here watching wrestling over the years, in which this would lead us to believe that the WWE is in fact going to go over on the ECW guys at their own pay-per-view.
They have to. If they don't, WWE continues to look like crap next to ECW, which is ridiculous because ECW has no business being considered higher than anybody.
Well, this brings me back to my original point. They had enough talent, they could have got enough talent to put together a 3-hour pay-per-view that included only some of the WWE superstars who had previously worked for ECW. The Kurt Angles, I mean, technically he was there for one night, but we're not going to really count him. The JBLs, the Edge, Maven, all these guys did not need to be added to this show.
I think they had to for one reason. There's not enough bodies that are available from ECW that you logically could get. For example...
That is so blatantly incorrect, it hurts.
TNA is not going to allow their stars to appear for a WWE-owned pay-per-view, and regardless if you appreciate it or not, this is a WWE pay-per-view that just happens to be being called ECW.
Dude, they had more than enough bodies. Do I actually need to run down a list for you?
Fire away.
Okay, let's start right here. They had Lance Storm. Okay.
Mid-carder.
Who cares what card he is? I'm telling you bodies. You want to talk bodies, not star level.
That's your main event.
My main event probably would have been Rhino. I don't know. There's various ways.
That'll put butts in seats.
It's not, dude, if you...
Rhino against, I don't know, somebody. That'll put butts in seats.
Are we talking about selling tickets, or are we talking about actual bodies? You got to be clear here when you're trying to make an argument, brother. Let me tell you what.
If you're going to buy a pay-per-view...
You're saying bodies. There's a difference between bodies and actually being able to draw. You need to specify.
Okay. Well, let's hear. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're just talking bodies then, correct?
All right, yeah.
Bodies that the WWE could use. We have Lance Storm.
Yeah, we said that one already.
Dawn Marie.
Okay.
Rhino.
She's pregnant, so she's Terrence's 2 bodies now.
Okay. Rhino.
Yeah, we mentioned him.
Okay. Then we also had Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, the Dudleys, Axel Rotten, Balls Mahoney, the Sandman, Chris Jericho was in ECW for a short time, am I correct?
Yeah, she was a TV champion.
Okay, there we have 10 right there. That's just 10 right there.
Okay.
We also have...
And one of them's a tag team.
Okay, we also have Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Super Crazy, Tajiri, Sinister Minister, Little Guido, Simon Diamond.
Is a manager.
Okay.
Simon Diamond's going to be on this pay-per-view?
No, I didn't actually mean to say Simon Diamond. I meant Simon Dean.
Simon Dean, yes.
We had Eddie Guerrero.
I don't know. For some reason, I just don't think ECW.
Tommy Dreamer?
Tommy Dreamer, absolutely, yes.
Well, I'm listing all these names of people that they could have used that did not involve TNA.
Well,
and I'll tell you what.
They are using them.
Hold on. New Jack, Steven Richards, The list goes on and on. They had more than enough people. You're worried about drawing, so you have to specify because that's not the same thing as
All right,
actual bodies.
let's go here, okay?
Let's
Well,
go
first
there,
of all,
dude. I'm there.
let's
I
talk
drove.
main
I
event
got in
super-
my car, turned the ignition on, and I went there. I'm waiting for you, dude.
Wow, that's really catchy, dude. That's going to get over. Anyway, back to the point. Let's talk buy rates. Let's talk drawing. Let's say who the main eventers were in ECW. We said Chris Benoit. He was not a main eventer in ECW. He was in ECW for a short time. Rey Mysterio was in ECW for probably all of 3 shows. He's there. I mean, we did the ECW results. You can check it out for yourself and tell us if we're right or wrong at WrestlingEpicenter.com. He was not there very long. Psychosis was not there very long. Him and Rey Mysterio were there for the exact same length of time.
So wait a minute.
So we're talking about people that just happen.
I'm having a hard time discerning the length of time they've been there and drawing power.
Well, the length of time they've been there is what I'm trying to get at. When you say ECW, I think the franchise Shane Douglas, I think Raven, I think Francine, who I'm pissed off is not going to be a part of this show. I think the living legend of hardcore wrestling, Terry Funk. I think Rob Van Dam, who will be there but is not physically able to wrestle, not their fault. I think, who the hell else do I think? I think Taz, who's not going to be able to wrestle. I think a lot of people, and I don't think any of these people are Steven Richards or against Chris Benoit, who just happened to be there one time in 1995. I don't think this is legitimately an ECW show.
So now you're telling me that you think that it's smart from the WWE to take people like Maven, and that's going to help put butts in seats and draw buy rates.
I think adding a story into it will definitely help put butts in seats because, first of all, ECW's audience was not that big. They might be getting some kind of a bump because the internet tells everybody that ECW was great, but this is also the same internet that tells everybody that the NWA was bigger than the WWF in the 80s, which is blatantly a lie.
Liars.
They are liars. I don't want to get into that discussion because I can go off for an hour. But the bottom line about this is you got to get to a point in this career, in this ECW, where you actually have people that main evented pay-per-views.
Well, here's the bottom line, dude, in my opinion. Since the rise and fall of ECW sold well, which was what spurred this pay-per-view, that the WWE should have made it what it really was. And the ECW did not have a lot of huge drawing power. They didn't have the stars to do it. They didn't have the Triple H's. They didn't have the Batistas, the John Cena's, the Rocks. They didn't have any of those people. And so when WWE puts it together, they should have realized, okay, we're not going to make a bundle of money off this, but we're doing it for our loyal fans, and they should have left it at that.
I don't think that's a way a businessman should look at anything. If I'm going to go ahead and put my money into a production of a show, I'm going to think, if I'm going to put my money in this, I want to get that money back.
And what happened last time Vince McMahon decided he wanted to put money into ECW?
ECW went belly up.
Oh.
You know why?
Mm.
You want to know why? And I'll tell you why. You cannot be a rebel promotion if you're a fly on the big dog's ass. You have to be the dog that's biting the ass of the big dog. The little chihuahua that wants to get into a fight. Like Scrappy-Doo from like a Scooby-Doo reference. You have to be scrappy. You got to be ready to fight. You got to be ready to challenge everybody, and you got to be willing to grow. ECW was not willing to do any of those things. Instead, they became the WWE's little lackey company, basically a training territory, and they completely ignored anything that involved bashing the WWE, but they didn't seem to forget bashing WCW.
I got to interrupt you right there. We're going to take a quick break here on the interactive interview. We'll be back within a minute, and we're going to get right back to this conversation of ECW. You're listening to The Blaze, 1260 AM. How ironic. We come back from our quick break with Shane Douglas, Mr. ECW, the one that started the whole show.
And the one that's putting on his own show on Friday night. If you're in the Philadelphia area, I don't know if it's sold out or not, but you do want to check that out. It's hardcorehomecoming.com.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few minutes left in the show. We're still trying to give away some Raw is War tickets. They still even call it that. Nevertheless, it's coming here.
No, they do not.
It's coming here to Phoenix,
Yes, it
June
is.
20th. And we got free 8th row tickets for our first caller at 480-965-1260. The only thing is you got to be
hurry.
here in the Arizona area. And our caller, our request line, is still open. All you got to do is call up 480-965-1260. We'll put you on the air, and we're going to talk some more ECW right now.
Absolutely. Where did I leave off? I was talking about how at the end of ECW, ECW became a company that did not hate the WWF, but they still hated WCW. That doesn't make you a rebel. WCW at this time was number 2. WWF was number 1. Ooh. When it's time to change, it's time to change. ECW was number 3. And it was a distant number 3. It couldn't beat WCW's C-Show Saturday night.
See, dude, you're just making my point for me then. If this was never that successful, then the WWE should not try and make it more than it ever was, because it was never that. They should have used the talent they have. I'm telling you, it would have been a better show. Because right now,
it might have been a better show.
This is killing Raw, A. It's hurting SmackDown, B. Because they're spending so much trying to fit everything in. That there was a lot of matches that should have happened Monday night that weren't there because they had to deal with Vengeance, they had to deal with ECW, they had to deal with the draft. There was way too much going on. If they just left it as it was supposed to be started initially, it's just a one-time thing with former alums of ECW, it would have been better for every show and every fan involved.
How many people do you think are to buy this?
I'm going to say maybe a buy rate of 100,000.
I would go as high as 200,000 just because of the promotion they've done for this thing. They've talked about it on Raw. They talked about it on SmackDown. They've made you want to see it, and you don't know what's going to happen. All you know is there's going to be an invasion. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be a part of each group? Well, we have an idea, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah,
Who's going to turn?
We have some matches that have actually been announced. We have Lance Storm with Dawn Marie taking on Chris Jericho, which should be a pretty good match in my opinion. We have an Extreme Luchador action. This is Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis.
By the way, Dawn Marie is pregnant. It's true. It's true.
It is, in fact, true. She is pregnant. Up next, we had a three-way dance. This is the Insane Luchador Super Crazy taking on Tajiri, who will be managed by Sinister Minister, as well as Little Guido, a.k.a. Nunzio. We have Eddie Guerrero taking on Chris Benoit, which should be an excellent match. I wouldn't expect it to be much different than what you'd see at a normal WWE event. We also have Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman taking on Bubba and Devon. There still has yet some matches to be announced, as we haven't heard where Rhino's going to be. We haven't heard where Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten. We haven't heard about New Jack and Spike Dudley.
New Jack going to be a part of the show?
Last I heard, he was. And we also been confirmed that Joey Styles will now be calling this action next to Taz, as we stated earlier.
Good, good. Joey has to be there, otherwise it's not authentic ECW.
See, now, I'm kind of the thought process that they need to have New Jack and Spike Dudley together for this pay-per-view, is they had their 2-3 year run as not the original Gangsters, but, you know, as a team kind of like the Gangsters. And they did some sick spots. Obviously, one of the most memorable when they jumped out that 50-foot balcony and landed on the Dudley Boys. And I think it makes sense to have them take on Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten, as they were there in that match as well.
They were there in that match. Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten teamed up pretty well together. I love Axel Rotten. I think Axel Rotten's fantastic. He's a hardcore SOB, but he can take some crap.
You know, another person from ECW that we haven't really discussed is Mike Awesome. Imagine Radish brought him up. Brian, who called in a little bit earlier, he should be on the show. What's he doing? He's working in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, he made the mistake of going to WCW instead of the WWF. And had he gone to the WWF at the time, and I did just say WWF, don't sue us, World Wildlife Fund. Had he gone to the WWF at the time instead of going to WCW, nobody would have said he sold out, even though WWE was the bigger company. Nobody would have said that, and I guarantee you he'd be part of the show. But because he went to WCW, which never bought ECW and never turned it into a training area and never killed ECW ultimately, this is why he's not a part of the show. He should be. But he's probably in Japan somewhere taking a sick spot into a pool with dynamite in it.
And, you know, more props to him for that. But let's shift gears here just a little bit. We still have a little bit of time left on the show. You're still welcome to call in. 480-965-1260 is the number to call. We're going to talk a little bit about this draft lottery. We discussed this between James and I last night, and we were trying to pick. Let's say you're someone and you need 10 people from the WWE. Who are you going to take? And I had to start thinking to myself, well, you know, as much as I don't like the guy, the first pick I probably have to take, and I know you're all going to hate me for this, is Triple H. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Good. I'm bringing you around to my side.
No, you're not.
You might not like Triple H. You might be one of the internet elite that think that he is killing the business. But at the end of the day, you know he is, in fact, that damn good.
I disagree that he's that damn good.
Oh, no, he's that damn good.
No, I don't really think that he is. He has drawing power because his career's had some longevity, and he's had some good pushes and has been the beneficiary of some relatively good feuds. The Rock and him, Austin and him, all these people made Triple H what he is today. Triple H didn't make Triple H.
Nobody makes anybody. It's all about what happens to you on your way up. Hogan wasn't Hogan before he went to WWF. He was Hogan after he beat everybody. And we held the belt for 4 years and a month.
Are we ever going to have a show where you don't discuss Hogan?
I would not bet on it.
That is an absolute shame, dude. I'm crying right now.
Well, how about Stone Cold? Was Stone Cold when he came in as the ringmaster?
Dude, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Triple H was the beneficiary of what was, at the time, considered smart booking. And he was with bona fide superstars, people that will go down in the history of this business as some of the best talkers and having some of the greatest feuds and matches ever in Austin and Rock, as well as Mankind to some degree. I know some of you may not agree with that, but Mankind definitely was over, and he had some matches that may not be technical classics, but they're still classics nonetheless. Triple H was a direct beneficiary of all this. This is what made him what he is today.
No Way Out career match, Hell in a Cell. That was a great match for Triple H.
If you're a Raw GM, who are the first 5 people you're hoping to pick?
Oh, well, I would have picked Cena. I'd have picked JBL. I'd have picked Eddie Guerrero. I'd have picked Rob Van Dam, and I probably would have picked Booker T.
So basically, you would have picked nobody and kept SmackDown as it is, floundering in the ratings.
I would have taken them and pulled them onto Raw.
Well, what's the difference? I mean, you still have the same core group of guys.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're telling me here that the whole point of this is...
I'd have taken their world champion. I would have taken their #1 contender. I'd have taken Eddie Guerrero, who should be their upper mid-card, which he is.
I think you're missing my point.
I am missing your point completely.
If you are Eric Bischoff...
Yes.
And you have 5 draft picks, who do you hope that you get, first and foremost, the top 5?
I just told you.
Okay, so basically you want to take the top 5, some of the top stars of SmackDown, essentially.
Oh, no, if you want to put it like that, if Dawn Marie was not pregnant, it's true, I would have taken her and added her to the women's division because she can actually work, which would be good for the women's division. I would also have taken, I didn't understand what you were saying. I thought we were asking, what would the top 5 guys you would take?
Okay, well, let me do it this way for you.
All right.
I'm going to go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. If I am a GM, either Teddy Long or Eric Bischoff, the top 5 people I hope to get out of this draft to start, life after the draft, it has to go as follows. I have to have Triple H. I have to have Kurt Angle. I have to have RVD. I have to have Chris Benoit. And I want to say I probably, this is going to be a tough one, but I probably have to have John Cena.
Well, that's good, and that would help Raw. That would help anybody, really.
Well, it's not just going to Raw. What if they go to SmackDown?
You asked me who I would do if I was Bischoff.
No. I'm just saying if you're drafting 5 people. Who are the top 5 people you want to draft?
Well, right now, if I was Bischoff, I'm not going to do it this way because I can't do it one way or the other. I would take JBL, even though I think it would hurt if Triple H stays on there, but they need a big heel on there, and Triple H
will do it. Can't you just give me 5 people? Just 5 people. The top 5 people in WWE. Who are the top 5 people right now? You want them on your show?
On SmackDown or on both?
Just period.
Period? Triple H, Batista, Chris Benoit, Rob Van Dam, and probably. Did I give you an answer there?
No.
I think I did.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay.
We need a 5th guy.
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels. See, was that so hard, bro?
Yes, I would take Shawn Michaels, and people on the chat room are probably going to say, why? He's old. He's 39. Ooh, he's real old. Wow. Bottom line is, he works well, his high spots make sense, and if you guys want to sit there and say Jack Daniels and all these other people on the indie scene that are wearing baggy clothes because they have unimpressive bodies are like Shawn Michaels, no, they're not. No, not even close. What they are spot monkeys that don't understand psychology. Michaels, who I've never been a big fan of, understands psychology and incorporates high spots into his matches, as opposed to it being a spot fest.
I think you're a spot monkey.
Spot monkey. Didn't the Beastie Boys have a song like that?
Anyway, guys, our time for this week is done. We appreciate you listening. Don't forget, we'll be back with one more week. You have one more week to win those tickets to Raw. It'll be here in Phoenix, June 20th.
We only have 2 left. We only have 2 left to give you, so if you want them, you better stay tuned next week, and you better get on that horn.
That is it. As we said, next week we're going to have some new interviews. We got Ivory coming up this Thursday. It should be pretty big. We also have some other things in the works. As always, the Interactive Interview working hard to keep you guys satisfied with the latest news and interviews. You got to keep it locked.